Good evening, everyone in Chiefs Kingdom. Welcome to the Wednesday night Q&A. Apologies for having to push it back a day. I thought about doing it on Tuesday morning, and I was like, no, I can grind through it. We'll be okay. It was just a busy day. 2 hours of practice, 2 hours plus of practice out, and then practice didn't start on on Tuesday until 1:10 p.m. It was just a long day. So glad you all were able to stick around and put up with me and everyone. Appreciate anybody who can make it tonight, and anyone who's new doesn't normally get to catch us on Tuesday night. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you enjoy yourself. As everyone probably knows at this point, you can ask anything and I'll try to answer it. We'll be going through everything that the Chiefs have going on. Luttrell, I'm sorry. I truly apologize. I was just a little puny last night. Long training camp, long week, long day. But you know what? We're catching up. We're gonna take that 5 day off period that the players have and just absolutely grind through it. But we got a busy week. Chiefs have wrapped up practice for the week, so they finished up today with a brief little 10-10-10 practice out there. Thursday rest day and recuperate and get ready for Friday night's preseason finale against the Seattle Seahawks. Should be an educational and informative matchup. The Seahawks are a good team to play in the preseason. Chiefs like to do that every year because they're a well-coached team. They identify good talent. Obviously, it's a good organization. It won a Super Bowl last year. So not only do the Chiefs like to be able to test their second and third team and their younger guys, draft picks, all of that up against a team like Seattle, they also like to spy and scout on them and see if there's anybody that they might want to claim on the waiver wire or make a deal for. So it's a helpful little party there for the the Chiefs. I'm looking. I don't know how long it's been doing this. I realize my screen is not mirrored and everything. I'm looking at all their things backwards, so I'm totally confused now. I don't think it's always been like that. So I'm apparently everybody having a stroke. So I know anything that I would talk about will probably get brought up in the questions tonight, or we can pull up on a tangent. But I'm sure we will discuss the Chiefs trade that they made, what that means, what they're thinking about doing. Any other moves that might be on the horizon, what this team is going to be looking for between now and not just even Sunday during cutdown day, but even into Monday with the practice squad building. And as we know with Brett Veach, the 53-man roster on Sunday doesn't mean it's the week 1 51-player roster. There can be more moves to be made. So we'll talk about what might be in the pipeline, anything else that this team might be looking for and searching for, and trying to make some moves out there. So let's go straight into the questions. And I can already see that StreamYard's let me down tonight. There's questions that are not marked, so I'm kind of disappointed in StreamYard tonight. I might have make it a little bit searching through the questions a little bit harder. But Jackson, how do the Chiefs? Oh man, and here, gosh, I have the wrong microphone on too. So probably somebody has mentioned it in the comments, so things will sound a little bit better here. Tell you what, it's the preseason for everybody, right? How did the Chiefs view Simmons' back injury in the building? You know, Andy Reid gave a little bit more insight, I guess, to it today. I mean, he talked about he's having it looked at. No one seems to be terribly concerned that this is an injury that might cause Simmons to miss any playing time. Anybody that's talking about it behind the scenes says, hey, we think he's going to be ready for week 1. Something they're obviously being careful with. Back injuries and offensive linemen are never ideal. So, yeah, you definitely want to go and tread carefully with this one. And that just seems what the Chiefs are doing. Now, when the Chiefs were in St. Joe, Josh Simmons was on the field for practice. And, that's pretty indicative of usually issues and injuries that are not terribly serious, and a player is going to be back pretty quickly. As an example, today, Kenneth Walker, I know everybody's a little uptight about the foot issue. And as Andy Reid said today, the swelling caused by his shoe, I'm sure we can get into that one later. But he's out on the field watching practice. not indicative of an injury that's not considered to be major. So now Josh Simmons has not been out of practice this week that we've been able to see. Could have been incognito, but haven't seen him. So that usually means that he's going to be back in the facility, either getting examined or more likely doing PT and doing therapy and getting treatment and everything. So, but again, Andy Reid's not treating it as terribly concerning. No one behind the scenes is treating it terribly concerning. Even the reliable sources from the Chiefs that I know are going to the national reporters are saying day to day. That's all the indications that we are getting on Josh Simmons right now. So don't think it's super serious, but we'll see. And Dog Petter with the super chat. Thank you very much, Dog. Appreciate that as always. You are a big supporter. Who do you think will have a surprisingly big impact? And are you talking about, and you can follow up, I'll look and see if you had any follow up on that, Dog. You're just talking about in the game on Friday night, or are you talking about, potentially making the roster during the season? Feel free to expand on that. Like I said, I'll just go strolling through and see if there's any follow up there, expanding on that a little bit. I mean, hey, this is going to a player this season. Awesome, Dog. I might be Charlie Brown with Lucy and the football here, but I'm refusing to get off the Jaden Hicks bandwagon. I love the way this kid plays. I've always loved the way that this kid plays. He's really impressive. He plays hard. He plays fast. He's aggressive, all of these things. And I don't know why it just hasn't resonated the last couple of years. And it was an interesting conversation that we had today because the topic came up about Spags continuing to talk about the rookie mistakes and those consistency issues. And I thought it was interesting that Jaden Hicks said that, that he played at times last year with a lack of confidence. And it's kind of intriguing to me because I feel like even last year watching Jaden Hicks, it seemed like, a little bit like what I think Mansour Delane said the other day. It's like if you're and Nick Bolton's kind of said this, and Spags has kind of said this about Nick Bolton in the past and some other players. Some variation of this, which is play fast, and hey, if you're wrong, at least do it fast. And I was kind of surprised because I did not see what I thought was a lot of hesitation or concern, from Hicks last year. I thought he played with the same aggression that he's played his rookie season, and you see on his film going back to college. So I thought it was interesting that he said that he maybe wasn't always sure about what he was supposed to do, and that's in a nutshell been what Steve Spagnuolo's complaints and Dave Merritt's complaints about Hicks has just been when they talk about rookie mistakes, it's like that of knowing the playbook, knowing your responsibilities and what you're supposed to do. And even in training camp, the coaches have said, hey, it's good and bad practices. He's had 2 really good games. And if it's playing with more confidence is what Jaden Hicks needs, I think he can be an impact player. So I'm still ride or die on that bandwagon, Dog, with Jaden Hicks. I don't know if it's surprising, but I mean, Kenneth Walker's going to be, if he's healthy, is going to be an impact player on this team. I mean, he could end up being a really big impact player on this team. I think he's going to put up some good numbers. I'll be intrigued. This Tyquan Thornton is an interesting guy too, because he's been kind of, I feel like, overlooked as we're talking about Worthy and Rice and the emergence of Cyrus Allen. Entirely possible that Tyquan could have a pretty good year too. I mean, I think we'll get an indication early on about Tyquan and just how he's going to fit into this offense. And if he can kind of establish his role and get into a groove with Mahomes, I thought it was interesting that, watching practice the last few days, Garrett Nussmeier has been taking all the reps with the ones, and he seemed to have a pretty good rapport with Tyquan. So we'll see if Tyquan gets into the action and plays a little bit with Nussmeier on Friday and what we kind of learned from that. I was trying to think about if there's anybody else that would be surprising on the defensive side. It's entirely possible that somebody from the cornerback group kind of, emerges a little bit. I'm not sure there's anybody in the linebacker group. I'll tell you, the one, I don't know if he's going to have a surprising impact, but I do think that, and you've heard Nick and I talk about this guy, the one player I think that's going to make the 53 that a lot of people are going to be surprised by is going to be Marcus Harris, the defensive tackle. I'm pretty convinced he's going to be in my 53 that's coming out tomorrow. I think he's absolutely going to make this roster. If he's going to be an impact player, I think he might get the chance because it's thin at that defensive tackle spot, especially for run defenders and not just pass rushers. So I like what Marcus Harris might be able to do for this team and just a kind of a rotational piece player. But considering this is a guy that I'm not sure a lot of Chiefs fans know and probably haven't paid a lot of attention to, I think he's going to make the 53. I mean, might end up being a guy that's not active a lot. Maybe I'll be wrong, but that's a thin group, and I think he's going to get some opportunities this year. Again, those are guys that don't always put up big numbers, but Marcus Harris he's got kind of the traits to be a good glue guy, it seems like. So I'll put him down. Thanks again, as always, for the super chat there, dog. Eric also with the super chat. Jeremy Fowler said on ESPN, Josh Simmons is day-to-day credible. Jeremy Fowler's very credible, and like I've said it before, I shouldn't put Jeremy in that spot. Jeremy's a really good dude. I've had a chance to talk to him and meet him a few times, and Jeremy's a really good dude. Got to enjoy a car ride because he and Adam Teicher gave me a ride from the Chiefs Hotel back to Civilization in Phoenix at the Phoenix Super Bowl. So very appreciative of ESPN for the car ride. But Jeremy's well sourced. He's well sourced with the Chiefs. The powers that be like Jeremy. So he is definitely one of those guys that if you hear it coming from Jeremy Fowler, it's coming from the top inside the front office. So that's a very credible source. So and that's consistent with what I've been hearing as well about Josh Simmons, is that Chiefs do not think that it's a major in any way, that it is just a day-to-day issue, and he'll be ready for week 1. I know, and hey, Beery, you said it there too, that Eric Berry was day-to-day once upon a time for year and a half. Don't think it's going to be quite that bad, but I would be optimistic that you're going to see Josh Simmons in week 1. I'm the Brown. That is incredibly kind of you. Very, very gracious and kind. I'm kind of a little emotional here. That's an incredibly kind gesture, Brown. Thank you so much for the kind words and the just contribution there. That's what I do it for. I do it because I feel like I'm one of you, all of you, that I try to put out there and do everything that I do, because this is stuff that I would want to know when I was a fan, when I was not a reporter. So yeah, incredibly kind gesture. I can't even. You touched me there, I'm the Brown. I truly appreciate that. That's very, very kind of you. Now I really, really wish I'd been able to get you credentialed. I know it can't happen, but I would love to. Very, very kind to you, my friend. I appreciate that. Jackson, I know you're not the biggest stats projection guy, but what would be the realistic expectations as fans for Mahomes this season? I think that's a valid question, and I'm okay with this one. I mean, I'm not super big, like Nick, on fantasy stats and everything, because that's not my forte. There's others that are probably a lot better at it, but I think it's worth exploring where Mahomes could be this year. And I mean, I keep saying that, hey, I'm not expecting 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns or anything, because for a couple of reasons. One, the league has changed quite a bit. I mean, offenses are down. The defenses are ruling a little bit here. So offensive numbers are muted a little bit. Mahomes' numbers have been muted a little bit the last couple of seasons. It's just a pendulum that swings. So, I mean, I realized it was only 4 years ago that he put up 5,200 yards. I don't think it's going to be like quite that way again. Taking into consideration the injury and the other thing too, it's, I mean, you're going to put up a lot of yards passing like Mahomes has, and Mahomes has done it twice. where he's gone over 5,000 yards and he's gone over 40 touchdowns. And obviously those were MVP seasons. But, the one they kind of went about it in two different ways. I mean, one, in 2018, it was just every game was a boat race. So that's what led to that. 2022 was a lot more balanced. The defense was really good too. It was just that the offense was exceptional. And I mean, it's I feel like that teams responding to the Chiefs is a little bit about why offense is down across the board, because everybody knew that they had to have a defense to try to compete with Kansas City. And they've all been trying to stop the pass. And if you could design an offense that slows down Patrick Mahomes, it's going to slow down every other quarterback too. So I'm not sure that Mahomes has gotten enough credit for the influence that he has had on offense, on defense is maybe in particular a better way to put it, and what they have done the last couple of years to slow down teams. That and taking into consideration too that I mean, Andy Reid has made this offense a lot more methodical over the years. I mean, in 2018, when everything was a boat race, and they kind of got away from a little bit of trying to run down the play clock and doing all of these things. I mean, this is still more of an Andy Reid style to play with. He wants to play up tempo, but not fast. So I think you're still going to see a Chiefs team that defensively they try to just clog things up and they try to get teams off the field, obviously, but they don't want to play a bunch of plays. They don't want to play 70, 80 snaps a game. They want to keep this thing under 60. And that's what the Chiefs offense wants to do. I mean, if you get Andy Reid a chance, I mean, they probably say we'd like to have about 60 snaps, and that's about it. They want to play methodical. So that's going to bring down your numbers too. All of that said, I still think that if you're looking at closer to, I keep locking on 2023, and I think he can be better than 2023. So I'm kind of in that 4,200 to 4,400 yard range of where I think he can be as a passer. I think he can easily get back up to 30 touchdowns. I don't think this injury, I mean, unless there is a setback of some sort, which there seems to be no evidence of that whatsoever. I mean, we haven't seen Mahomes have any days where, hey, there's swelling on that knee. He needs to sit out, needs some rest. He has not needed any of that at any point in this process. So 4,400 yards, I think you'd like to see him back up over 30 touchdowns, 30 to 35 touchdown range, I think would be great. Needs to cut down on the interceptions, under 12 for sure. I mean, he was under 12 the last couple of seasons, but last year was a shortened season too. I would prefer to see like at least a 3 to 3.5 to 1 ratio. So if he's going to have 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions would be the ballpark that I would like to see him in. I think those are reasonable numbers. Because I do think that this offense, while I don't think that the Chiefs and Andy Reid wants this offense to be high tempo, I think he wants it to be efficient. And again, you look at the talent that they've put on this offensive side, and you look at the running back group that they have assembled. I mean, they should be able to move the football. I mean, I'm intrigued to see how teams are going to slow this offense down, because they've got a lot of pieces that they can use. And it's not going to be like last year where teams could absolutely just take away the ground game and back everybody off. They could rush 4, drop 7, and just clog up the passing lanes for Mahomes. They're going to have to put 6, 7 guys in the box to be ready for this Chiefs run game. And the Chiefs are going to be able to slow down, I think, the pass rush too with the screen game. And I keep saying this, that based on what I've seen in training camp, the Chiefs are going to do some things with moving the pocket to try and get Mahomes out on the edges more just naturally, rather than him scrambling, but getting him outside the pocket where he can see things better, where he kind of likes to be, and he's on the move, and he's making throws that way. That's the style that he favors. And the Chiefs are going to try and put him in some of those spots. They're just going to try and make him protected. We've seen a lot more rollouts, a lot more sprints than we've seen in the past, quarterback sprints, and that moving pocket. I think you're going to see a lot of that. And that's another reason why, I mean, I think this offense is going to be efficient. You're going to see some things from this team as it's evolved that is going to go in a new direction. So I'm pretty bullish on this group. We'll see how it comes out here. Tim with the super chat. Thank you very much, Tim. That's very gracious of you as well. How many of these camp injuries are actually concerning versus the team just being precautious and giving proven players rest? I think a good chunk of it, Tim, is absolutely taking precautions and just giving some of these guys rest. There are some that, I mean, put a pin in them, that they're worrisome for the long term. I've talked to a couple of trainers about the Ashton Gelati injury, and that's another one that the Chiefs have kind of glossed over a little bit as being nicks and bruises, and kind of grouping it in with everybody else's injuries. That's not really probably the case with Gelati. Gelati's is, it's a torn plantar fascia, as Andy Reid has described it, and and I talked to one trainer who would say that, hey, it goes against the conventional wisdom is that a complete tear of the plantar fascia is easier to play with than a partial tear. I talked to one person who says, well, they don't necessarily agree with that. Like I said, it seems to be the prevailing mood, so that, in that case, hey, maybe a complete tear is better for Gelati than a partial tear. But there's other aspects of this injury too with Gelati, in that, it is initially supposed to be very, very painful, and until it starts to heal. And once it starts to heal, then you can manage the pain pretty well with painkillers and rest and all these things. But once it starts to heal, it will heal on its own. You don't have to have surgery for this. Some players do have surgery, and Gelati might need surgery in the off season. We don't know. Now, there is also the possibility he's going to need surgery in the season, because the one downside and the one caveat that you have to have with this injury is that, yes, you can play through it. A lot of players have played through it, and not necessarily a big drop off in performance. So there's an entirely possible that Gelati can get through the season and can be 90, 95, maybe as close to 100% as possible. I think you have to accept a little bit of a performance drop off. He could absolutely do that. There's a small chance too that he re-injures that and re-tears that plantar fascia. And everybody I've talked to has pretty much said that if he re-tears it, that's when disaster strikes. That then he probably is going to have surgery and have it repaired. And that would most likely end his season. Now, they don't think it's necessarily likely. It's just a possibility. So that's one with Gelati. I think you're definitely taking it with a little bit of grain of salt. Everybody else, I mean, Simmons with the back is, the Chiefs are describing it as day-to-day. I have no reason to believe. No one is indicating otherwise. Everyone seems to think that he's going to be ready for week one. Everything else has been grouped into the nicks and bruises a little bit. Jimmy Holiday's injury, and Holiday, I think, was going to be obviously more of a practice squad candidate and still in that category. His injury with the quad sounds like, and groin, it sounds like it's going to be a little bit more longer term. Wouldn't be surprised if he ends up on injured reserve. Hopefully for his sake, if it is, it's maybe they're going to have room to be able to designate him to return. But anybody else, all the other injuries between Shamari Connor, doesn't seem to be a lot of concern about Lohi Gilman, even though he was a late scratch with what they call back spasms and against Tampa Bay and isn't going to play this week. Jack Cochran looked really scary when it happened, but he's been back at practice. Limited this week, wasn't a true full participant, but back enough that you can see that, okay, he's probably gonna play in week one. I'm trying to think if there's any of the others. There's still a handful of players that they're holding out. Kenneth Walker doesn't appear to be an issue of any sort. Between Simmons, Trey Smith is back. So no, I think that, to me, of the players who are going to be on the 53, Gelati's is the one that I would at least be watching the closest. That'd be the one I'd be concerned about. Other than that, I think that everything else sounds like, honestly, Tim, they do consider it minor. Nothing that is necessarily going to be long term. Now, Omar Norman Lott's not back yet. I'm expecting he's going to start the season on the PUP list. That would seem to make a whole lot of sense. And remember, they can designate 2 players to return from injured reserve. And right now, the only IR candidate that I've seen and really heard about would be Jimmy Holiday. So, they've still got possibility if there's another player that they need to sit out for a few weeks, the beginning of the season, and then return, that might be the guy. I mean, and then you still have a second option there. So, we'll see. We'll see how it's going to work out there. But right now, I mean, no. I mean, there's nobody that's player on the 53 roster that you feel like is right now destined to start on injured reserve or could miss significant time. Appreciate the super chat, Tim. Jackson, could the long-term effects of Mahomes' injury be improved mechanics and an emphasis on being a pure pocket passer versus being an improviser scrambler? That one thing that Mahomes did talk about at one point during the offseason was that the injury might, and I'm trying to remember, I wish I could remember exactly how he worded it, but he gave at least some credence to the idea that the injury was going to require him to focus more on his fundamentals and his footwork and his base. So I don't think it's really going to impact his movement as a passer. I mean, I think it's going to have more of an impact on his movement as a runner. I don't think that he's going to be wanting to take off as much as he has in the past. Now, we'll see when he gets out there, because that competitive switch is going to flip and he might be taking off running more than he wants. I will take the under on him rushing and scrambling for 500 yards this year. That's just not going to happen. It needs to be probably under 200. And honestly, if it ended up being under 100, I don't think anybody with the Chiefs would be complaining about that. But like I mentioned, I mean, they're going to find some creative ways to get him out of the pocket and move around a little bit, because that is one of his strengths. I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, one of the benefits of him is that he can throw from any platform. He can do that. So you got to take advantage of it. But yeah, I mean, he does seem to have had kind of a renewed emphasis, at least when he's in the pocket, of focusing on the fundamentals. Honestly, under center is going to force him to do that too, because when you're under center, a lot of your play calls in the passing game are going to be dependent upon you getting your drop and making your read and getting rid of the football. It's not, you don't have as much read and react as you do when you're in a pistol or the shotgun. I mean, you're doing your 5, 7, 9-step drop, and then those plays are designed for you to get rid of the football. So I think that's going to be an emphasis too for him, because again, those plays are designed on precision, timing, and accuracy, and he needs to have a solid base when he's in an under center. So that also, I think, could be a factor. Clinton, Caliendo got to be the odd man out. I'm going to be really intrigued, because we talk about the new guy, Josh. I was doing so well today, and now you guys all, you guys and gals and everyone out there know that yes, sometimes my rushing through pronunciations with my Ozark accent isn't the best. Joshua Ezadu, we'll go with that. I've seen Ezadu and Ezadu. We're gonna go with Ezadu for now, but the trade for him, the 2028 7th round pick, not a big investment. This was a player that obviously the Giants had on their roster bubble, and the Chiefs are picking up for depth. He's listed as a guard. He played mostly guard at North Carolina, played some tackle at Carolina as well. What came into the NFL is mostly a guard, and yet, oddly enough, has played tackle mostly in the NFL. So the Chiefs are labeling him as a guard for now. Sometimes they just label players what they are, and in the NFL roster database, he's listed as a guard right now. So that's apparently what he's. I don't know. We can necessarily say he's just completely a guard. Ezadu is absolutely a versatile, and that's another thing the Chiefs were playing up in their announcement. From Matt McMullen, talking about his versatility. I mean, he can play 4 different positions. So I don't know that it's going to be Caliendo for a couple of reasons. And one, it's that the Chiefs have been going with Caliendo in replace of Trey Smith. And what I think there's a reasonable case to be made that Hunter Nordzad probably deserves an opportunity too. But from a just a veteran standpoint, seems like that, they're giving Caliendo the edge and the experience as the backup at guard. Norzad, I think they certainly view as their best backup center. So I think that's his spot. Now, remember, though, between those two guys, Norzad doesn't have any more guaranteed money on his contract. Caliendo has a 1-year deal with guaranteed money. So if the Chiefs walk away from Caliendo, they're going to be eating that number. And they could trade Caliendo. I'm just not sure it makes a ton of sense, to acquire a guy that you're referring to as a guard and then trade a guard. I mean, you could. I think hey, and once again, I mean, Caliendo was a free agent in the offseason and no one made a move for him. Now things change. I mean, Izadu was a free agent in the offseason, and the Chiefs didn't make a move for him. I mean, they could have easily had him if they wanted him without having to give up a draft pick during free agency. So things like that happen. So who's going to be the odd person out? I mean, you got Khalil Benson, who also has position flexibility. They've played him at left tackle, and right guard so far. I don't think it's a stretch to say that he has 4 position flexibility. So you got 2 swing tackles in that group, and then you've got a bunch of guys who can play guard, and you got Norzad and Caliendo that can play center. I mean, that's a pretty versatile group. When I put the team together like that, the odd man out is that's a play. And I'm kind of increasingly seeing it that way, because if you just watching the snaps and the way things are getting divided, and especially, last week when, the Chiefs in the game against Tampa did kind of, keep Benson out there for a little bit more time, and taking some of the work away from Poulet. And when Poulet and Driscoll were in there, they were kind of the cleanup guys in these last 2 games. It was pretty evident that even before, Benson entered the conversation as, being a potential challenger at right tackle, that he'd already passed Poulet as a swing tackle. So I'm thinking Poulet may be the odd man out. I mean, once again, the Chiefs tried to sneak him onto the practice squad last year, and it did not work. If they were to lose Poulet, if conceivably, you still have Driscoll, you still have Shu Godric that you can squeeze onto the practice squad and get them through waivers. So maybe that's how it gets to put together. Maybe you just cross your fingers on Poulet. I'm not convinced that Caliendo is going to be the odd man out. Now I'll be talking about all the people I can the next few days and everything like that to see truly how the Chiefs see about Izadu, fitting into this roster, where his position is best going to be, and how they view him. But I think that would I think that would be right now the puzzle pieces coming together that would fit the best would be if they can find a way to get Poulet onto the practice squad, because it does seem like there's a gap from Benson to Poulet as far as they view it, and the guy they're bringing in honestly has more tackle experience, a lot more in the NFL than he does at guard. So, well, let's see how it goes out, Clinton, because I'm not sold on how that's going to unfold. Tyler, more about Josh Simmons and the back injury. Is it something to be worried about for week 1, or is there a lot of precautions going on? It's precautions, Tyler. It really is. But again, back issues and offensive linemen, they're always flags. I mean, I don't know if I need to have a red flag on this one. It's at least a yellow flag for Josh Simmons. Anytime there's a back injury involved, it's going to be an issue. I mean, Trey Smith with the hip, it's going to be a concern. It's not a thing that's going to keep him out for now. I was told it was an injury that needed a little bit of rest, and after a couple of weeks of rest, it was something that he can most likely play through. Is it going to be something that, again, after the season requires, cleanup? It's quite possible. That can happen with some of these joint injuries. You'll see it with shoulders. You'll see it with hips. So it's always possible down the road. So you got to have at least a little bit of concern, but I mean, this is only if it gets worse. As it is right now, it appears to be completely precaution, just taking their due diligence and making sure that everything's okay, and no reason to rush him back. And you got other guys who they want to get some experience. Luttrell, can we get a regular season record prediction, playoff prediction for KC? I mean, I'm bullish. Maybe I will look foolish at the end of the season, but I'm bullish on this team. I'm vacillating between 11-6 and 12-5. I will probably settle on 11-6 because I do think it's a difficult schedule. I could see the Chiefs if they get hot early in the season, and they could go on a run. So they could be maybe 8-9-0 to start the season. I mean, that wouldn't stun me. The back end of the schedule is going to be a lot tougher. But I can certainly, I mean, even if it doesn't get that good, I mean, 7-2 would be a reasonably good start for this team. And so I'm bullish. I think the offense is going to be good. The one thing from the preseason that I think has stood out to me the most has been that one of my biggest questions is about the secondary, and the secondary has been pretty good. Now, playing a lot of backup quarterbacks, so your mileage may vary, but I'm pretty optimistic about this team, Luttrell. Either way, I think 11-6, 12-5. I think either one wins the West. I think both Denver and the Chargers are going to come back a little bit. I'm still not sold on the Broncos and Bo Nix coming back from his injury and how they're going to look. Chargers always seem like there's just one thing after another going on Charger land. So I think the Chargers will still be a good team. I like their coaching staff, obviously. They just got some work to do. And I don't know what's going to happen in Vegas. I mean, the Raiders could go 2-15. They could go 10-7 and challenge for a playoff spot. Who knows? Although I think they'd have to have some, I think, really good bounces go their way to make the playoffs or get the 10-7. I don't know how the quarterback situation is going to work out this year for them. We'll see. But I think that I mean the Chiefs will be my pick to win the West, and I think they get it done at either 11-6 or 12-5. And Infopocalypse, has anyone beat out Chris Hansen, or I think you mean CJ Hansen, for interior online depth to make the practice squad? Pete Nigra is the name to watch there. Infopocalypse. I think he would be the strongest candidate right now. Snap wise, when you look at the depth charts and everything, I mean, Nigra is definitely the next man up. I mean, he has been consistently at the end of training camp being the one that's in there with Norzad and Caliendo as the third interior lineman. All three of those guys rotate. Nigra was a center in college, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how much guard he had, but he started out the beginning of the offseason program coming in, and he started out as just the third team center. Slowly kind of worked his way up, got some more guard work, and eventually moved into the second team, and where he's now in that group right behind Caliendo and Norzad. So I think if he clears waivers, which I think he will, Niagara would be one of the guys I've got on the practice squad. Love CJ Hansen. He's again another one of those good dudes that you're rooting for. If they have two interior linemen on the practice squad, he would probably be the next guy. So if there's room for two interior guys, I think it would be Hansen. But again, it depends a little bit on how you put together your 53 and who makes those last few spots on the offensive line. But I think right now, I think it would probably be Niagara over CJ Hansen. Chris, will this be Andy Reid's last season as a coach in the NFL? I mean, it's always possible. I mean, he's got a contract through 2029. Everybody I've talked to seems to think that he's going to get close to that, if not finish the contract, and then see what happens. I kind of asked him about that at one point during camp in one of our not on camera, not recorded sessions. And he didn't give anything away. I mean, he clearly is still interested in coaching. The interesting thing is that, you start looking around at coaches, and hey, the only guy that's never won a Super Bowl at 68, which Andy Reid's going to be this season or later, I mean, Bruce Arians is it. Belichick didn't do it when he was after that age. Pete Carroll wasn't getting it done at that age. I mean, we're talking about there's only like 5 or 6 guys who coached past age 68 in the last quarter century. I mean, that to me is more like, a more reasonable comparison. I'm not interested in going back to the 60s and 70s because that's not, the NFL is not the same anymore. It is getting harder and harder, honestly. I mean, I think it's harder and harder to be coaching after 65 than it has in, the NFL maybe forever. I mean, it's just a hard job these days. It's a stressful job. And I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, Andy Reid's getting into that category. Does he have enough juice to make it to 29? He's going to be 71 at that point. Maybe. At this point, I'd probably say that I'm not sure that he's going to complete this contract, that he might retire before then. If they win a Super Bowl, I wonder if he would like to go out. I mean, that was the rumor that everybody was, going for and everything when Andy made his dry joke to Jay Glazer that Jay Glazer did not understand and didn't get. And ended up saying, hey, Andy Reid wins the Super Bowl in Phoenix, he's retiring. That was never going to happen. But it could be. And it could be against his will. I've had this conversation with Seren Petro, and I probably have changed my mind over the last few weeks thinking about it and looking at the numbers, because the reality of it is that if this team struggles again this year, if they go 6-11, if they miss the playoffs, there's no recent history of a coach, including Hall of Fame caliber coaches, pulling it back together and winning at this point. Belichick wasn't doing it, and Brady left, and that was obviously the problem. Now Mahomes isn't going anywhere. That's the exception to the rule, is that, if you got the quarterback, at the Hall of Fame quarterback, you can still win Super Bowls at that age, because Arians did it. But man, if Andy has another bad year, the history says it's not going to get better. So I've probably been dragged over to Seren's side on this one, that another bad year for Andy Reid, and it's probably time for Clark Hunt to have a discussion about the future with Andy Reid. He's done enough in this organization that I know, and I think you should give him a fairly lengthy rope on which to dangle. But the history of bouncing back from back-to-back bad years this late in your career as a coach just are not good. So we'll see. But I don't think it's going to be his last year, Chris, because I think they're going to have a good year. The only way I think this is his last year is, like I said, he wins the Super Bowl and decides to go out on top. And even then, I'm not sold that he would do that. Eric, do the Chiefs have the worst O-line depth in the entire NFL? I can't imagine any other team has it this bad. I've had this very similar conversation with a couple of people this week that cover the league, either other teams or on the national level. And the thing is that every team has it bad when it comes to O-line depth. If you look at Pro Football Focus, which not the biggest fan, but it's at least one of the few places out there that goes out and puts some ratings on offensive line and grades them and all those things. So I give them credit for that, and we'll use their numbers in that regard. Chiefs are, I think, number 6 or 7 in pass blocking in their grades. I think they're number 11 in run blocking in those grades. I think overall they come out to be like 7th or 8th in those grades as an offensive line. And that's mostly, honestly, depth, because your starters aren't playing a lot in the preseason all around the league. So you look at that. The Chiefs, let's put it this way. Bottom line, the Chiefs offensive line isn't 28th in the league. They're top 10 in the league on those offensive grades. Now, is that real? Could it be small sample sizes? Is it, some guys getting the kiss and some guys maybe just being graded poorly? I don't know. That's your mileage may vary, but I will say this, Eric, and this is for any team that thinks that the Chiefs offensive line is bad. Focus on the 49. Focus on Seattle this week and their offensive line and see what you think of them. And watch one other game. Watch another game and see what you think of their offensive line. Because my take and my experience and talking to people is that every team in the league hates their O-line depth. They might hate their backup tackles, might hate their guards, might hate both of them. Some teams hate their starters. There's no doubt about that. And honestly, hey, the Chiefs, they may very well have a couple of guys that they put on waivers that get claimed. If they put Esa Pele on waivers, he probably get claimed. Caliendo might get claimed. Hunter Norzak would definitely get claimed by somebody if they put him on waivers, which is why I don't think that they will. But Chiefs may have a couple of guys offensive line that, if they put on waivers, they may get claimed. They may make a trade. Who knows? So I think you'd be surprised. Every team, for the most part, doesn't like something about their O-line depth. There's just not enough high-end O-linemen to play in the NFL. That's a rough reality. So, like I said, feel free to watch some other teams and what their offensive line looks like, because I think you'd be surprised. I mean, there's some rough O-line play around the league. Emerson, the comments on from Steve Smith, Agent 89 on wide receiver Jalen Royals. Yeah, we talked a little bit about this last week, and I'll be honest, I don't see it. I mean, I can see if maybe he's been hearing that, and maybe I know he was at camp one day, and sometimes you can just be there on a bad day and just see a rough play, some rough reps, some frustration. Maybe guy's not feeling well. I haven't seen this from Royals. Now, that said, I mean, dude had a really good game the other night, and I think he's had some good weeks in practice lately. I mean, is there a correlation there? I mean, did that wake him up? Did somebody give that to Steve Smith, hoping that it would motivate Jalen Royals? I don't know. I'm always, there's always a little bit of the cynic in me and a little bit of the tinfoil hat that will always, think that there might be some conspiracies there. But I don't know. But I haven't seen it. I thought last year, I mean, the challenge that Jalen Royals had last season was that he just missed so much of training camp with that knee tendonitis that he never recovered, really never got into rhythm, never really picked up enough of the offense to contribute. And remember, I mean, this guy has very little experience at big high-end football, period. He was a tryout guy that drove out to Utah to try and get a job on the Utah State, and they were still in the Mountain West when he was there. So he wasn't playing in a Power 5 conference or anything. And started out at Georgia Military Institute, I think it was. I mean, so this guy doesn't have a ton of experience, even at the high end of, high level of college football. Was a 0-star recruit, and like I said, I mean, had to earn his way into college football on a tryout. He's come a long way, and as a result, he had a learning curve. I mean, the rookie year was always going to be a redshirt year for him. It was always going to be year two that you were going to see, okay, does this guy have it? And right now, I mean, Jalen Royals is showing that he may have something. I mean, I'm not projecting Jalen Royals is going to go out and, all of a sudden be running ahead of Cyrus Allen. I think Cyrus Allen's a better receiver at this point than Jalen Royals is. But hey, he can be a useful piece. And, if he could turn into a guy that, I mean, if the Jalen Royals I've seen of late is a really good number 5 receiver. The only reason that you would have a problem is if, because of injuries and issues and maybe, down the road roster problems or something, only problem would be a Jalen Royals is like your number 3 or your number 2. Then you've got problems. But Jalen Royals is your number 5. Right now, no problems. I'm okay with that guy. Andrew, hello. Good to see you, my friend. Does Nussmeier expect to play in preseason game 3? Tell us anything important, other than they probably wanted to just see him take the maximum amount of reps. Yeah, that's pretty much it, Andrew. The original plan was for him to split the reps, to probably play the first half, and then Chris Oladokun the second half, maybe even just the fourth quarter for Oladokun. But now that he has got he's in the concussion protocol, doubtful that he's going to get cleared. Reed was a little non-committal on that today, but it basically, and certainly Oladokun has not practiced this week in any way. Like I said, Nussmeier took all the 1 reps in practice this week. So as of now, barring injury, the plan would be for Nussmeier to play all of game 3. And, if he makes the 53, regardless, whether he's on the 53 or the practice squad, right now, I mean, Justin Fields is going to be the number 2 quarterback. So this is an opportunity for him to get work that he's not going to get the rest of the season. I mean, this is an opportunity for him to bank some of that work a little bit. And, especially if at some point that the Chiefs do need him down the road. I've accepted the likelihood that he's going to be on the 53. I don't think it's great for the Chiefs or for him. I mean, I think ideally you'd be able to get him on the practice squad and just let this be a developmental year for him. There are still things that he needs to clean up. He's continued to have the issues this week of throwing a high ball. Watch for that on Friday night. Just see the. I mean, he can be very accurate, and left to right is not a problem. It's height. It's just firing the ball over guys' heads and firing the ball out of bounds. The pocket presence, I think, will come in time with him. I mean, I think he's got the tools to be a good quarterback and can develop and learn. But here's the thing. I mean, if the Chiefs did put him on waivers and he gets claimed by another team, more than likely that team is going to ruin him. I mean, if he ended up in Cleveland and Cleveland starts him in week 7, I mean, he's going to be broken. And especially also if he ends up with a bad coaching staff. I mean, you just never see those things go well. So staying in Kansas City would be great for him, great for his development, great for the Chiefs. It'd be great if they could get him onto the practice squad. I think they're gonna have to protect him on the 53 just in case. But after that, I mean, in a typical week, Justin Fields is going to be your scout team quarterback. He's not going to get a ton of opportunities, so this is the last chance for Nussmeier. And hey, you know what? I mean, if things go terribly, he goes out and completes, 40% of his passes and throws 3 picks. Maybe you can get him onto the practice squad. I'm not predicting that. It's just, crazy things can happen. But yeah, ideally, Andrew, this is just an opportunity for Nussmeier to go out and get all the work that he can, and you just kind of see what you got in him. Jackson, you want 3 bold predictions for the Chiefs this season. Let's see. I mean, I'm guessing, winning the AFC West counts as a bold prediction, considering they were 6-11 last year. So I'm going to take that one right there. I'm going to go with that. I really want to be bullish on Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to put up some yards. I'm going to say, I keep going back and forth on this number too. I'm down between 17 and 18. If I'm going to be bold, I would say Kenneth Walker's going to get 1,800 yards from scrimmage. So I can't guarantee you, Jackson, that'll still be my bold prediction 2 weeks from now. I usually try to do like a bold predictions take, and some of them, and you know what? I'm going to repeat one from last year because I went all in on George Karlaftis last year and said he was going to have 10 sacks last year. And I was really cooking in the first half of the season. Before he broke his hand, I thought I was going to cash that one. But did not. I think he gets there this year. So when the Chiefs win the West, Kenneth Walker, 1,800 yards from scrimmage, Karlaftis, double-digit sacks. There you go. I'll take those 3. I'm okay with that. Andrew, who are you most interested in watching in preseason game 3? Ask Nick when he comes around as well. I'm gonna say I haven't asked Nick this week, so I don't know what his answer will be. But let's see. I mean, some of the guys I want to see. I'm always interested in a lot of guys, but I do want, and some of it's going to be seeing guys play well, or either confirming or making us question what we believe about some of these guys to this point. Would love to see the offensive tackles play better than they did last week. That was the area where I would say I think they struggled the most, was on the edges. So I want to watch the tackles, see how they perform this week, if there's a step up. Like I said, I'm not as down on the offensive line across the board as a lot of people are. I mean, I think once again, the offensive line's been very individual about who's played well and who hasn't. And, even just seeing even the tackles didn't play well, probably a little bit lazy, but I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, the first group of Benson and Jalen Moore last week, they did struggle. So that I think is fair to say, but I think the interior of the lines have generally played well. There have been some moments on the second line that have played well. So like I said, I don't think it's been across the board.
But other guys, I mean, I still want to. I like Xavier Wampa. I want to see him, and I feel like the Chiefs were trying to downplay him a little bit. Maybe they're going to hide him this week. I don't know. That's the other thing you kind of look for in Game 3 is, all right, who are the Chiefs? Really trying to sneak onto the practice squad, because who's had a really good training camp? That's a young guy that all of a sudden just disappears in the third game, and you can't see him on the field. The other thing I always look for in these games too is, you watch special teams, especially the first half. The earlier players are playing on special teams, and that will tell you a lot about who's making this roster. If you're out playing on the special teams in the first quarter, chances are you're making the 53. Now, the Chiefs have had some players and some guys who are probably going to be on the first team that are also practice squad candidates because of some injuries. Jack Cochran wasn't playing on special teams this week, so like Cole Christensen was filling in for him. I'd expect Cole to be on the practice squad. It's entirely possible. I mean, if Chiefs carry 6 linebackers, I mean, Cole might be that guy, so not ruling it out. But watch special teams, because that'll tell you a lot about who's making this team. And I'm looking forward to watching Nussmeier. I didn't think he was very good last week. I know everybody's really kind of. I know I've been the doubter all along on Nussmeier, and I've come a long way. I mean, I'll admit he is not the same quarterback who showed up at rookie minicamp. He has improved dramatically. I give him a lot of credit for that. But there's still a long way to go. So I wasn't real impressed last week. I thought it was a pretty pedestrian performance. And now, granted, he was doing some work with some, kind of a mixture of receivers that he had worked with, not worked with. So it gets a little tricky, but I would like to see what he does. I don't know if he's going to get to play with any of the ones. I can't imagine that Worthy and Rice are going to play, but if he gets Tyquan out there, which I said, I mean, it looked like there was a little bit of a connection between those guys this week. Well, let's see. But I generally, as much as I dog preseason games, I actually kind of really get into them, because I do enjoy watching these guys and seeing guys who might not. I mean, there's decent chance that for some of these guys, it's going to be the last football game that they play, and that should mean something. So I'm kind of nostalgic for these games. I mean, I've grown over the years to, I think, like the third preseason game more than the first two. So I may be crazy. Universal Soul Groove Music. Thoughts on Nuss taking over quarterback 2? Is it a possibility? It's a possibility. And I think it was Tim Grunhard on 810 that I heard talking about the possibility that, hey, if Mahomes went down and it was just one game, that, Justin Fields is probably your guy. But that if, Mahomes was going to be out for an extended period of time, there's going to be multiple games, that maybe that makes Nussmeier your guy. I mean, like I said, I think Nussmeier has come a long way. I think that Fields has some still deficiencies as a quarterback, but I still would be a lot more comfortable with Justin Fields, playing for a short period of time and trying to win some games, for a couple of reasons. And, one is, there's a little bit more pocket presence there, a little bit. Fields still, I mean, there's still a lot of things that he needs to work on, but there's also things that Nussmeier needs to work on too. And like I said, I mean, Nussmeier still throws a high ball, and I mean, Fields can sail it sometimes too. So I don't want him to be completely off the hook. But right now, I would feel more comfortable with Fields than I would in Nussmeier in that kind of a situation. And then when you're talking about the athletic aspect of it, I mean, Nussmeier's a pocket passer. He's not going to be scrambling and beating you with his legs. Nothing like that. Nothing like what Fields can do. And I think you can game plan around Fields. I don't know you can game plan around Nussmeier yet. I mean, and that's just because he's a traditional drop back passer. And he's still got some mechanics, things to clean up. Fields has mechanics, things to clean up too. Don't get me wrong. But you can take advantage of that speed. You can take advantage of that athleticism. You can throw in some draws. You can throw in more play action, some of those things that he's more comfortable with. get him again, kind of moving around in the pocket and taking advantage of that athleticism. I think you can game plan more around Fields than you could Nussmeier. And again, I mean, the Chiefs, it wasn't much, but they gave up a draft pick for Fields, so they're definitely not walking away from him. And I don't think anybody is suggesting that. I mean, I think everybody's on board with you're carrying 3 quarterbacks. It's just, hey, if Mahomes had to exit a game, who do you go to? Right now, I think the Chiefs would go to Fields. Maybe it's a bigger gap than I think that it is. Maybe it's a more narrow gap than I think it is. But I think there's enough of a gap right now that's where I would go if I were the Chiefs, and I think that's where they would go. Now, does that mean the same answer in week 8 or week 13? Well, we'll find out. So things can change. Cole, do you think that EJ Smith, Emmett's son, makes it to the practice squad? No, he has no shot at the 53. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that is kind of, it's out there a little bit, because I thought EJ Smith, has had their best kick return of the preseason. When Dave Tobe, when we talked to him during the offseason, he mentioned, EJ and Jaden Odd as being, 2 pretty decent kick returners. Like I said, EJ Smith might be one of the best kick returners on this team. There's no way he can crack the running back room, and you're not going to keep 5 running backs. I like him. I would have him on the practice squad. Again, you're going to have four on the 53. I think you're going to look to around the waiver wire and roster cuts and see if there's anybody you like more. It's also interesting, I think, because honestly, through most of training camp, I would have said that Jaden Ott had the edge over EJ Smith, but it does appear that late in camp that they have been favoring EJ a little bit more over Jaden. And that's interesting too, because Jaden played for DeMarco Murray at Oklahoma last year, and it was expected, going into the season to be the starter, and ended up being a backup and not playing that much. And yet, also came here as a free agent. So I doubt that the Chiefs are going to keep 2 running backs on the practice squad. I think it will be either one of those guys. But right now, I would say probably EJ if he clears waivers, and I think he will. Unless there's a team that just really, really needs a kick returner, and they like what they've at least seen on film so far. And that would be the danger too with, if you waive, Nico, there's probably going to be a team that is needy at special teams and would probably claim Nico. But I have been impressed with EJ. I think he's definitely had some moments, and there's something to work with there. Absolutely. So I think he'd be a candidate. Don't know if he'll make it or not, but he's definitely in that ballpark, Cole. Oh, yeah, Davis, thank you for reminding people to hit the like button. I know Brian's got one later, he's always good on that one too. So thank you for reminding everybody to hit the like button. I appreciate that. Subscribe too, if you are new to the Q&A tonight. And sometimes you just even have to apparently just hit unsubscribe and subscribe again to refresh it if you want the notifications when we are live or we have new videos up. So do all those things. I appreciate that. Pano, do you think Nussmeier can surpass Fields this season? Fields should just be used in scramble situations. He doesn't have NFL composure. I mean, and that's kind of the thing too. I mean, neither one of them really have NFL composure at this point, Pano. There was one moment at practice this week with Nussmeier with the ones. He was in shotgun, took the snap, bobbled the snap, and just chucked it. It would probably gone down as intentional grounding in a game. It was just amusing to me. I mean, he bobbled the ball. Wasn't really rushed or anything. It was just, he just kind of bobbled it, and was like, once he got his hands on it, I mean, he just fired that ball out of bounds. Maybe the smart play rather than taking a sack, and based on the situation, all those things. Although, like I said, that would probably have gone down as an intentional grounding. And I think that's a little bit the issue that Nussmeier has with throwing the high football. The closer I think that the rush gets, he hurries up a little bit, and that's how you end up getting some of those high throws. I've noticed that even Mahomes sometimes, when he's under center, he sometimes throws a little bit of a high ball. It seems like that's also affects maybe a little bit of the internal clock and the timing. So all these guys, when they're under center, it seems like sometimes the ball comes out a little high, a little hot. So I think that's something to watch too. But I mean, during the season, maybe. I mean, I think right now it's Justin Fields' job, but you never know as the season progresses, and guys can get better and clean up some things, and we'll just see. We'll just see if Nussmeier gets enough reps and opportunities during the season, or this kind of becomes just a red shirt year for him. Fat Yankee. Is there a player the Chiefs try to get to the practice squad but gets poached by another team? If so, who? I mean, the way that, like I said, the way that Spags, I think, was talking this week about Xavier Wampa, I think that might be one of those guys that could fit into that category. I mean, Esapole got poached last year. So if they put him on waivers again this year, that's another guy. I mean, he has started in the league as a tackle. So that's a guy that, I think that some other teams might take a chance on. Let me look and see. I mean, there's always a chance with anybody. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that, I mean, now Christian Fulton is a vested veteran. So if he got released, he would just become a street free agent and would not go through waivers. I'm still torn on that one. I don't know what the Chiefs' plan is for him. He's one of the more difficult decisions on this 53, because if you look at the performance and you look at the snaps and you look at where they are, you'd say, man, he is really on the bubble and maybe the wrong side of the bubble. And if Christian Fulton became a free agent, somebody's going to pick him up, especially since the Chiefs pay him a bunch of money this year already, so they can pay him the bare minimum. So would be a fine deal for somebody else. I don't think there's anybody on the defensive line. I think it's too thin. Linebacker is probably too thin for anyone to claim. The only one at receiver is I think if the Chiefs if they decided they're going to go with Brashard Smith and Emmett Johnson as their kick returners, and Brashard's going to be the punt returner, and they waive Nico, I think Nico gets claimed by somebody. There's going to be someone that needs a returner. You got to have two returners this day for kick returner alone. There's going to be somebody that's needy enough that they're going to be like, hey, wait a minute, this guy's experienced. He doesn't put the ball on the ground. May not be the fastest guy in the world, but at least we can trust this guy. So I think that I mean, I think Nico is the only receiver potentially that could get, placed on waivers that I think would have that issue. Otherwise, I mean, I love Andrew Armstrong. I think there's a ton of potential there. Again, a potential in the sense of, hey, this guy's your seventh wide receiver who maybe, one day could be a 3 or a 4. He could be a really nice depth piece. Nobody's seventh wide receiver in the league is getting claimed by somebody else. So, you're always going to overvalue your own. Wide receiver is just that one position that every fan base overvalues. If I like I said, I love Armstrong, but if he landed on waivers, I would eat my hat if he got claimed, because I mean, he's the seventh guy. And I mean, there's Chiefs fans who are saying they don't like the Chiefs wide receiver room. Well, you can't hate the Chiefs wide receiver room and like the seventh wide receiver. So maybe the sixth, depending on how you see Nico and everything. Here's the thing. I mean, that's one of the challenges that the Chiefs have this year, is that they are going to have some depth problems across the board. I mean, the last few spots on this roster, I think they're competitive, but not for the right reasons. I think they're competitive because you just got a bunch of players who are similar. But just like, I mean, if Jake Breeningstool gets waived, I'm not sure that anyone claims him. Maybe Jared Wiley would get claimed, but I don't think he's getting waived. So that's the tricky thing, is that I'm not sure there's a lot of big names, or people that would say I mean, I don't think that there's any recent draft picks that are getting waived. Anybody that's getting placed on waivers, for the most part, is probably somebody who has been undrafted, somebody the Chiefs have picked up over the last couple of seasons. So, like I said, not necessarily any big names. I mean, it would only be if somebody was like, gosh darn it, the Chiefs got that undrafted free agent this year and we really like him, and now they're trying. just like Pole last year in the Jets. I mean, that can happen. Tim, was it literally that Ken Walker's shoes didn't fit, right? That's kind of pretty much how Andy Reid made it sound today, that his ankle was swollen because of his shoes. It wasn't an in-depth answer. So you kind of just have to, we just kind of have to take it as it is. I mean, there's not a whole lot of parsing of that explanation, Tim. Was it, is it the shoes? Is it, I don't know. That was the weird, I mean, I just pretty much just imagine myself putting down on the injury report, Kenneth Walker, parentheses, shoe. Doesn't make any sense. I did ask one of my athletic trainer friends if this is a legit deal, or Andy Reid and Rick Burkholder were just trying to see how gullible we were. I think it's a toss up, but we're going with it being real. But hey, I feel bad for Kenneth Walker because I see that the Seahawks fans and everybody's jumping on this as the whole he's not dependable and this is why he can't be a every down back. Well, he was an every down back in the playoffs last year and dominated. So I mean, okay, maybe you can only be a dominant back for 3 or 4 games. I don't buy that either. I mean, I think he's going to be fine, but and maybe the Chiefs just wanted to give him some time off. Who knows? Not the greatest excuse if you want time off, that you have a swollen ankle because of your shoe. But and the only other player I ever knew who had a problem because of their shoes was Justin Ross, and that was everything you needed to know about Justin Ross. So, Jackson, from your personal perspective, you had to choose one rookie and one established player that you're most excited to watch this morning or this season. I'm going to go with this season. Who would they be? I mean, gosh, I was going to say I think it's an easy answer with the rookies, but man, it's not, because it would be, gosh, man. Ooh. I'll tell you, man. I mean, it's a 3-way race for the rookie. I mean, obviously, it's Allen, Delane, and Peter Woods. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I would have said a week ago, I would have said Cyrus Allen. I really want to see what this guy can do and what he can put up. Now that we've seen Delane in a game, I want to see Mansour Delane this year, because I want to see if this guy, I mean, maybe he's just going to come in and literally be at an all-pro level. I mean, we've seen guys do it before. Guys who are taken this high in the draft can absolutely, at corner, come in and be that man and be that guy from day one. And he might be. I mean, he looks really good, and he is a smart player too. I mean, I'm really impressed by the way that he talks about the game and breaks it down. I mean, it's really, I mean, obviously a lot like Trent McDuffie. I mean, both those guys are really smart players. Obviously Delane's I think a little bit bigger, and man, he plays fast. I'm excited to see about Delane. I mean, all 3 of those guys, but Mansour Delane, final answer there. And established player, I mean, I do want to see Kenneth Walker in this offense. We have not seen I mean, we haven't had a running back of Kenneth Walker's ability since at least, the 2018 season with Kareem Hunt. I want to see what this offense looks like. I want to see Patrick Mahomes when he's got a ground game like that. So, yeah, I mean, Walker is a guy that I really, really want to see. And granted, I want to see how guys play around Walker and how they play off of him, because, again, it reminded everybody, I mean, when the Chiefs had a running back like Kareem Hunt, and Kenneth Walker is in that ballpark, he can be a guy like Kareem Hunt. When they had that, and they had Patrick Mahomes, this was an offense that averaged 7 yards a play. They were the greatest show on turf. They could move the ball at will. So I'm really excited to see what Walker can do in this offense. Oh yeah, Donald, there's no doubt. I mean, hey, you can get a sprained pinky or ingrown toenail this week, anything like that, and gosh darn it, Nussmeier would have to go on injured reserve. And hey, once again, you don't have anybody else. You could absolutely, because maybe he does stub his toe or something, got to put Nussmeier on injured reserve, but you designate him to return. So later on, you can open up a 3-week practice window, and maybe squeeze him on at that point. I mean, there's a lot of roster shenanigans that can take place in the NFL. So, wink, wink. Casey Harold, Matt, if they go with 3 tight ends, do you think Wiley or Breeningstool will clear waivers? I think Breeningstool would. Wiley, I'm less sure about. I mean, Breeningstool has looked good. I don't know that he's put enough on tape for anybody to have to, put a waiver claim into him to make sure that they get him. I can see him being a guy that, maybe clears waivers and then they try to bring in, but it's tight end. I mean, there's some other spots that you're probably looking at for waiver claims. There's probably a very niche number of teams that were looking for tight end depth. And honestly, I mean, I think the Chiefs are one of those teams that need tight end depth. So if you don't think that there's somebody out there better than Wiley or Breeningstool, I'd say hang on to them both. Wiley, I think, is obviously, he's a draft pick, is a little bit more of a known quantity. Obviously, every team in the NFL last year had a chance at Jared Breeningstool and passed on him. So I don't know how much has changed. Now, once again, I mean, it's a play, so things can happen. But I would think that Breeningstool, like I said, would clear waivers. I don't think Wiley would. But I'm also not sold that it's going to stick with 3. They may very well stick with 4. And let's face it, I mean, if you go in the preseason, I think Breeningstool has had a better preseason than any of the guys in front of him, and probably including Travis Kelce. So Kelce, I'm going to give him the nod on the bulk of the work because he's had more opportunities. Yeah, he's had some drops. There have been some issues with Kelce in camp, but I'm going to go with I am going to go with Kelce in that regard. But I mean, Breeningstool's been fine. I mean, it hasn't set the world on fire, and that's again my issue and my concern about that tight end room is that nobody's just taking over and dominating. They could really use somebody to do that, but Breeningstool's got, I think, the best upside, certainly at this point of between Wiley, him, and Noah Gray. I would say Breeningstool's got the most upside. Tim, if I wanted to learn more about the X's and O's and play terminology, what resource would you recommend? Should you just start playing Madden? Honestly, I mean, Madden's not terrible. They do have real plays in there, and they've got, real terminology. I'll tell you what, Tim, I'll give you a Twitter account that's a lot of fun to follow. I think it's Honest NFL. Is the username, but it's a anonymous, at least self-proclaimed, anonymous NFL scout, and based on the stuff that they post, I have no reason to believe that that's not the case. Seems to be very well sourced too, but will publish literally plays from playbooks, and was apparently pretty well sourced with the Eagles and maybe even with the Chiefs, because seems to have a lot of plays from Andy Reid in the past, and those are really fun. Because if you're talking about the X's and O's and really getting into it and understanding, the roles for each receiver, understanding, what the terminology means. I mean, there's a lot of it that, is over my head. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you get into some of the play calls, and I'll admit it's over my head. But that's a great source. There's some books out there too that are really good, but and there's a lot of websites. There's some, I'm blanking on some of the better ones right now, but I tell you what, I mean, that Honest NFL is a great start. And just, I would say, and this is no knock if you're one of those types out there that does film breakdowns. I am not insulting you. Please don't take it that way. But watch some of the players. Mitch Schwartz does it, and he will go through it. His brother Jeff does it too. Chase Daniel. Watch players who break down film, because they'll use the same terminology and the explanations that the NFL players do. And some film breakdown people do that as well. So like I said, no knock, but what you're getting if you go to the NFL players, and they're not always right either. I mean, and a lot of them will admit that, if you don't know what the specific play is, it can be very difficult to, know whether or not somebody is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. offensive linemen generally, though, are going to know about technique. Receivers and quarterbacks will know about their own techniques and can critique those things. And like I said, I mean, not to cast aspersions on anybody else that does film reviews or breakdowns or anything like that. There's some very, very good ones out there, but former players will give you the good breakdowns about what the terminology means and what coaches say, and really how to break things down, and that can be helpful too. I mean, I take notes at practice because, again, I mean, there's simple things that you learn. I say simple, but I remember, I learned this my first year on the beat because, Therese Paylor asked a question. He was doing a story on the team's 11 personnel, which, if you don't know, that means there's one tight end and one running back. 11. The first number is for tight ends, second number for running backs, or excuse me, first number is running backs, second number is for number of tight ends on the field. So like a 12 personnel, one running back, two tight ends. 21, two running backs, one tight end on the field, and then the remainders are receivers. So 11 is one running back, one tight end, three wide receivers. And so Therese was doing a story about 11 personnel, and that was when Tyreek was coming in there and really being a key part of their 11 personnel. And he asked Andy to read the question, and Andy, just because of the way that he loved Therese and the way that he likes to teach, he goes, well, we don't call it that. And he goes, you know what we call it? And Therese was like, I don't. And he's like, we named it after the officials. And then Therese goes, oh, zebra. It's like, yes, it's zebra. The Z receiver in the Andy Reid offense is called zebra. So yeah, that's zebra. Trying to remember, I think I have to go back and look at my notes. I'm trying to remember. Oh man, this is going to really, I think Mustang is 12. So one running back, two tight ends, two receivers. They're right now, the Chiefs are using for 13 personnel with three tight ends. They're using Rhino. I don't know if they've always used Rhino. I felt like it used to be a different term, but they are using Rhino right now. And sometimes those names can be for specific packages with specific players and situations. So again, I mean, they've got Tiger as one of their packages, and again, off the top of my head, I'm not remembering which ones are which, and some of these are specific, like I'm trying to remember. I don't think Tiger is a red zone personnel, but some of those terms that they use, I mean, they are specific to scenarios. So, and again, I have to have my notes in front of me to remember what they all are to keep them all straight in my head. Doctor Who, how do players react to being traded, especially if they're going from a bad team to a good team? Like going from the Browns to Jets, suddenly finding out that you're headed for KC, Rams, etc. It seems to vary. And generally, my experience for the most part, Doctor Who, is obviously just talking to guys who've been traded most recently to Kansas City, which means that hey, they're a good team. I think, as far as going from a bad team to a good team, I mean, everybody for the most part seems to embrace it. I'm trying to think if there's anybody. The weirdest reaction I've ever seen to a trade had actually nothing to do with going from a good team to a bad team or anything of that nature, bad to a good. But it was Kenneth Acker when the Chiefs picked him up from the 49ers. And he came in and into the media workroom, and it was odd because they didn't put him on the podium. They just brought him in. And so he was just kind of in a scrum with a handful of us. It wasn't a full room, so there was just a few of us there. But this was also at the same time when everything was going on with Colin Kaepernick. And we started asking, Kenneth Acker about Kaepernick. And it was not entirely clear whether he was being legit or he was just playing along. But he acted like he had no clue what was going on. Like he had no idea that Kaepernick, had kneeled for the national anthem or anything of this nature. And I don't know if it was just because he had been told, hey, anybody ask you about Kaepernick, you don't want to talk about it, just ignore it, don't answer it, don't go down the record or anything like that, just move on. And so he did a really good job of just going, oh, what, huh? No, I have no idea. No, I didn't hear that. No, I don't know. I don't know how you could. I mean, there was nobody else seemed like alive on the planet that didn't know about that. But Kenneth Acker did. But no, I mean, that's most of the experience I've got. There's some guys. I'm trying to remember. Gosh, it was. Why am I blanking on his name? I want to say his first name was George. Somebody will probably remember it. He was the guy that his dad was with the Raiders. He was with the Raiders. I think the Chiefs may have signed him off the Raiders practice squad, or the Raiders waived him and the Chiefs signed him to their practice squad. I can't remember the details of it. But he was. I thought he was a little bit conflicted, because obviously he had the history. His family had a history with the Raiders, and so coming to Kansas City was, he was excited and all because it was a good team, and he was excited to be, with the players that were here and everything. But you can have situations like that. But yeah, I won't. Some of the names I'm not going to remember, and some of them I will just protect for their innocence and maybe maybe their guilt. I don't know. Gosh, I know some players who came from bad teams, came to the Chiefs, and were like they felt like they just gotten out of jail. Yeah, Esapole had some pretty good stories last year. I'm not gonna lie, Esapole had some pretty good stories about the Jets last year, and he said he enjoyed his time there and everything like that. But he said there was definitely a difference in the organizations and how things were done, and that's what most players say is that when you go from a team that is losing, like if you're the Browns or the Jets, and you come to Kansas City, you do appreciate the differences. There teams that also come from other good organizations, and there's maybe some things about Kansas City that they don't like. There's some things that they sometimes feel restricted in a little bit. There's that. But I will say, for guys who get traded, they do appreciate the professionalism of Kansas City. They appreciate that, the organization at least runs things in an organized and professional way. Everything's done on time. Most players appreciate that. They appreciate the fact that they're coming to a team, but there's not a lot of guesswork. Every day what time practice is, when you're eating lunch, all these things. Meetings don't run 45 minutes behind or start 2 hours late or anything like this. Everything, the trains all run on time in Kansas City, and that's not true in all teams, and it hasn't always been true in Kansas City. Before Andy Reid, it was, there was a wild, wild west. So I think, generally speaking, I think they have a pretty good reaction, Doctor Who. But there's always going to be some differences, and everybody's going to have some things that they probably liked about other teams and don't like in Kansas City, and vice versa. But yes, I think the general consensus I've from players I've talked to who have come to Kansas City mid-season or with trades, and it's suddenly, not talking about just free agents, but guys who come in that way, they do appreciate that KC is a professional organization and that things are organized. So, Danny, what is Andy Heck's personality like? Do the guys seem to like him, or is he out of touch? And I can only say that I've been around Andy Heck myself in professional, situations. I haven't hung out with Andy Heck, that kind of thing. So I can't necessarily give you a complete and total character study of Andy Heck. I know he's not Eric Bieniemy. He's not one of those guys that's a raw, kind of guy and everything like that. I kind of describe Andy Heck as maybe intellectual. He thinks a lot about, offensive line play, and he has a logic and a construction about the things that he does and why he does them. The Chiefs have ways that they want their players to block, and there's been issues with that sometimes because players have come in, and Orlando Brown was a really good example because in Baltimore they use certain techniques and certain structure and everything like that, and Andy Heck does things differently, and they wanted Orlando to do things their way and not the Ravens way, and there have been other players too that have had examples of that and everything, and so I don't. And that's probably not, really what you mean by meaning by out of touch. And I think I know where you're going there and everything. I don't get the sense that players think that he's out of touch, but there's some quirks that Andy Heck has that, I would say varies how well they're received from player to player. some players have, and here's the thing. I mean, I will talk to offensive linemen. I've talked to offensive linemen over the years that love Andy Heck, that enjoy playing for him. They love him. They love that they feel like they know where they stand with him, and they appreciate the way he does things. There's others who don't appreciate it as much and have done their own thing. Maybe just, it's kind of you play the team game, but you play it your way. You play your position your way. That's I wish I could really describe it a lot better. And again, I feel a little bit uncomfortable, Danny, just because I only know Andy Heck from press conferences and talking to him. Probably. I mean, I've talked to him a few times at training camp. Just passing by. I mean, so I don't know. I can't say that I know Andy Heck. I don't know if anybody in our current media corps really knows Andy Heck because we don't get to interact with some of these coaches the way that we used to, and days gone by. Even 10 years ago, the way we got to interact with some of these coaches. So things have been changing a lot over the years. But I can say that, yeah, it varies from player to player. And here's the thing, though. I mean, it's not like there's not a mutiny of any sort. It's not like there's every offensive lineman is like, oh, you got to get rid of Andy Heck. I think there is a reason, and Nick's made the compelling point over the years about where Andy Heck's deficiencies are, and some of his former players that have been critical will tell you what those deficiencies are. But again, it kind of comes down to your mileage may vary, and it comes down to results. And as long as he keeps getting the results that Andy Reid likes, then Andy Heck's not going anywhere. But he's the one thing he's experienced, Danny, and that's the thing that I think gives him the benefit is, and maybe the edge over some other guys that, just recently got replaced and the Chiefs moved on with. He's been around the block enough and he has had success. I mean, you can certainly look at that group and point out the success stories for Andy Heck and guys who have become really good players. I mean, we can't cherry pick. We can't just say, oh, he was responsible for this guy, not working out, or this draft pick not working out and not getting more out of this guy, but then say he had nothing to do with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and Kingsley and Josh and Mitch Schwartz or anything of that nature. I mean, you can't. Mitch Schwartz. I guess you have to give it to Cleveland and I can't remember the offensive line coach that they had. I know Schwartz loved him, so I wish I could remember who that was. But yes. It varies from player to player. So I probably gave a terrible answer there, Danny. And I'm trying to do. I mean, like I said, my only uncomfort with it is just that it's a personality question, which I think is completely fair. I've got no problems with that. But it's like I don't have enough one-on-one time with him outside of just a press conference, and I don't think that's enough. Even like I said, even talking to him at training camp, that's not enough to really know somebody. I've heard stories about Andy Heck over the years, and I mean, there's odd things but there's really good things too. And like I said, there's some players that absolutely love him and would go through a wall for him. And there's others that are like, okay, well, we just see things differently. There you go. Brian, hit that like button. I appreciate that, Brian. You always keep me on task there. Joe, hey, if wide receiver, I've already forgotten Caldwell's first name. Goes on practice when any chance Chiefs can keep him. Let me double check because he Jeff Caldwell was waived with an injury designation, which normally means that player then comes back if they clear waivers, which he did. That player then comes back and is on the Chiefs injured reserve. And I have not seen that the Chiefs have reached an injury settlement or anything. So let me see. The Chiefs don't currently list him, but let me check the NFL transaction report. And and it's probably going to ask me for the authenticator. Okay. Oh, I did not. There are some of the NFL pages, which by the way, that have like no top secret information whatsoever. One is for the NFL's stat system, game system information that literally, I mean, it's just a concise, up-to-date information for games in progress, the box scores. I mean, it's got everything going back for history and everything like that. That's literally the only information. You now have to use an authenticator like RSA encryption in order to log into this website. And it's like, I mean, I don't know what, what's so important about that, but it's just the way it is, I suppose. The NFL also does not make this easy. So let me give me a second here to go through just to verify what happened to Caldwell. One of you probably already knows it. Sometimes you all are smarter than I am. Yes, he did. He returned on injured reserve. So Jeff Caldwell is on the Chiefs injured reserve list. That group, my understanding is that cannot be designated to return because that's correct. Yeah, he was waived, so he can't be designated to return. This would essentially put him out for the season since he was waived with an injury designation. If Chiefs want to bring him back at some point, they can reach an injury settlement with him, release him that way. Once he's healthy, they can also release him, but there's a couple of scenarios there that if they wanted to play him this year, but he would have to become a free agent that could sign with any team. But right now, as it stands, he's back on the Chiefs injured reserve list. He's on their team, just wouldn't be eligible to play this year. Will, do you think the Chiefs will end up trading Nussmeier this season if he shows out in the last preseason game? I mean, honestly, I think if he shows out and he just continues to play well, I think the Chiefs would hold on to him. I mean, I think that that's why they drafted him. I mean, was this to develop long-term, quarterback here? And again, I mean, I don't know if you would necessarily get as much as you'd like for him. I mean, if he has a great game on Friday, I mean, is somebody going to give up a third-round pick for Nussmeier? Probably not. Could you upgrade to like a 6 maybe? I mean, possibly, but then again, a lot of teams might just say, hey, we're going to see if the Chiefs put him on waivers and maybe we can get him for nothing. I don't know if he would have built a lot of value yet. Now, we've seen it down the road, maybe next year if he goes out and gets rave reviews and plays really well in the preseason, maybe you could flip him then. Maybe it's in 2028 that you could flip him for a draft pick. And maybe a decent draft pick if he continues to develop this way. But pretty rare for a rookie quarterback to end up in that spot where you're able to deal them for enough of an upgrade that would I mean, again, he was a 7th round pick. I mean, if you get a 6th round pick back, I mean, is that enough? Or would you rather have this be a guy that you can try to develop and be your own backup quarterback? I mean, you got control of him for 4 years, so 3 years. Go for it and see what happens. Jackson, is this team realistically capable of winning it all, or does the building view this as a retooling year before truly competing next year and beyond? Lots of young talent and 15 recovering. I don't. Brett Veach has been pretty cautious, and even Andy Reid's been pretty cautious about how you kind of describe this year. But I can tell you one thing. One thing is that the Chiefs feel that any year that they've got Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback and he's playing in the playoffs is a year that they feel like that they can win a Super Bowl. They don't have to be 15-2 to think that they can win a Super Bowl. If they get into the playoffs and they've got Patrick Mahomes, they think that they can win any given year. So, and yeah, I mean, is their goal this year to win the Super Bowl? Yeah, it is. But their goal also this year is to kind of set up. You don't hear this. It's discussed and people throw it out. And I'm not sure that anybody's really adopted it, though. But they're kind of trying to set up for Mahomes 2.0, that this is the pivot year, that this is the year you go from this being the Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones team to what it's going to be next. And probably don't even still know what that team is what is going to be next. Is this going to be the Patrick Mahomes, Xavier Worthy, Mansour Delane team, Peter Woods team. I mean, I don't know that we totally know. I mean, this is kind of really, in some ways, maybe 2018, 2019, you're kind of just building a brand new core around Mahomes. It's a transition year. It's a pivot year. But again, they absolutely believe that any year that they've got Patrick Mahomes, they think that they can win it all. And Travis Kelce is a great point to that. Travis Kelce would not be coming back if he didn't think he had a chance to win it all this year. I mean, I don't think Travis would come back just to get the bitter taste of a 6-11 season out of his mouth by, coming to a team that, finishes 10-7 and being happy with that. No, he's coming back because he still thinks that this team can win it all. I mean, Mahomes thinks this team can win it all. I think in a lot of ways they're better, a lot better than they were last year. This team honestly might be better in a lot of ways than maybe they were in 24. I mean, I don't think that's ridiculous. So there's lots of young talent. It's a pivot year for sure. So, but yes, I mean, do they think they can win it all? Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt. You go into that building, anybody you talk to, they will absolutely believes that this can be a year that they win it. And again, the reason why is Mahomes. I see Nikki has joined the conversation. Excellent, even though Nikki joined the conversation about half an hour ago, and I'm just getting around to the question. So sorry, Nikki, and sorry to everyone as always for my delays. Noticed that only a handful of the guys were wearing the Guardian helmets. I thought they were mandatory at camp. Two things for that, Nikki. One is that there's two Guardians hats this year. There's a new one that's they kind of say is more stylish. So some of the players, I mean, the new one, you might at a glance not know. I mean, it was designed to try and make it less obvious that it's a Guardian cap. So the new ones are a little bit better, at least as far as looking like a normal helmet and everything. And players can use either one. They can use the old Guardian caps or the new ones. The other thing is that I think there's about 7 or 8 of these. 7 or 8 helmets that are Guardian approved, more or less, that if you wear one of those helmets, the NFL testing says that that's as good as wearing another helmet and the Guardian cap. So you don't have to wear a Guardian cap if you wear one of those 7 or 8 helmets. They say that the concussion protection, the head protection, is equivalent to, like I said, a helmet and a Guardian. So if you wear one of those helmets, yeah, you don't have to wear the Guardian cap. So you'll have basically 3 different looks out there. You got the 2 Guardian caps, and then you'll have some players, and I guess even more, because some of those helmets, they're different manufacturers. They look different. So, but I mean, as far as just like seeing a helmet and not having the Guardian cap on it, yeah, you kind of got 3 different general looks now. So it can be Guardian 1, Guardian 2, or just you don't have to wear a cap at all. And some positions are still excluded from it. I mean, offensive and defensive lines all have to wear them. I think linebackers all have to wear them. I don't believe that receivers are required to, and quarterbacks are required to wear them, but they can. And again, anybody who wears one of those approved helmets doesn't have to wear the cap at all, even if they're a defensive or offensive lineman. Brian, does it seem to anybody else that Andy is being more secretive than usual about the first team offense? That's a good question, and I think it's about on par. I mean, there's no doubt to me. I feel like that at least during the preseason games, I think they've been more vanilla than ever before. And and that was even some of us noted it. Andy doesn't usually just come out and flat out and say that we're going to run the vanilla offense and everything. I mean, he'll usually just say, we're not game planning for a specific opponent, and he has said that. This year, but he did. I mean, back before the first preseason game, he against the Rams. I mean, he flat out just said, we're going to have a vanilla game plan. So I think they've gone more vanilla than they would normally do during the preseason. Maybe about the first team, and like when you're talking about personnel. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a whole lot that he's being secretive about, other than he hasn't really been terribly forthcoming. After talking to him today, I can't tell you who is playing tomorrow night for sure. I know a bunch of guys who are injured, or having precautions with, are not going to play. But I mean, he's Xavier Worthy and Rishi Rice. I mean, both those guys were what I would say were full participants in practice this week. But I mean, are they going to play tomorrow night? I mean, they've been playing all week with Garrett Nussmeier, but I don't know that they're going to play on Friday night. I say tomorrow night, play on Friday night. I don't know. So, I mean, and then in some ways, personnel wise, I mean, he's been pretty cagey. I think he's always usually pretty cagey about that, but he's been maybe a little bit more cagey about the personnel aspect of it. But I mean, I'll say this. I mean, I feel like there's only maybe one or two plays that I've seen in the preseason from this offense where I'm like, oh, okay, I feel like that's something we might see during the regular season. And I think they've all been screen plays, by the way. So that's just, there's going to be, I mean, unless it's the greatest head fake of all time, Chiefs are going to run more screen plays this year. Are we moving to the Q&A to Wednesdays? No, Nikki, it was unfortunately just, I should probably, once again, I know there's people who would love to watch on other nights, and schedule-wise, I would love to try and make it work. And maybe if I ever get down to Nick's 1 hour or less version of the Q&A, we can pull it off. No, this was just, I got overwhelmed and slammed on Tuesday and just didn't have the energy. And I took the opportunity to get another day of practice in. Chiefs are done with practice, today for the entire week, so we got to pull it off tonight. So sorry for, once again, you know me. If I get a little bit overwhelmed schedule wise, I sometimes have some late pivots, and that's what I did yesterday. I am sorry to all of the long time and the hardcores. My deepest apologies. So we'll be back. I mean, we're going to probably do 2 Q&As next week. We'll do a live stream where we'll talk about the roster on Sunday. That will probably just go live when we know the roster. I do have to juggle a couple of things because I am going to be on Sunday Sound Off talking about the roster on KSHB 41 on Sunday night. So we have to kind of schedule around that. It records early, and there's a little inside secret there, so broadcasting secret. So I'll have to schedule around that, but we will be talking about the roster cuts and the 53 player roster on Sunday afternoon, evening, whenever we know the roster. And then we'll still do our Tuesday next week. Pete, I think anytime in the past 40 years pre-Mahomes, our fan base would have been very happy to have Fields as our quarterback. Curious if you think that would be the case. There's no doubt, Pete, that there's been times in the last 40 years pre-Mahomes that Justin Fields would have been a fine quarterback for the Chiefs. I can think of a couple that he would have been better than. There's a few that he would have been worse, and fans would have been, not happy with him. But yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, like I said, there's definitely some that he would have been better than, a few that he would have been worse, but that's kind of man, you talk about this era of Chiefs fans. I mean, I grew up, first quarter Chiefs quarterback I remember was Mike Livingston. And I just barely remember Mike Livingston, but I had his football card. Steve Fuller was really the first guy I watched, and I like Steve Fuller, but you know what? Justin Fields is better than Steve Fuller was. Bill Kenny was fun to watch. He could sling the ball a little bit. I don't know I'd probably have to say Bill Kenny was better than Justin Fields, but there's some potential for Fields there, I guess, still to, kind of become something. Justin Fields with Marty Schottenheimer might have been something. I mean, I enjoyed all the other journeyman quarterbacks that Marty Schottenheimer went through, but he might have been better than, at least that point in their careers, might have been better than Steve DeBerg, even though Steve DeBerg was the greatest play action quarterback of all time. Dave Craig, probably better than Craig. I can't say it was better than Joe Montana. So, let's not be crazy or anything. I don't know. Probably take Justin Fields over Steve Bono. Don't know about, Elvis might have been a push. Definitely, I'm taking Trent Green. Justin Fields if you had him versus Elvis, I take Rich Gannon over Justin Fields and Elvis Gerbach, unlike Marty Schottenheimer, unfortunately. Then Justin Fields over Brody Croyle. There was give Justin Fields to Herm Edwards, and Herm might win a few more games. Yeah, it's a mix. It's a miss, Pete. But no, I mean, there's no doubt. There have definitely been years where Justin Fields would have been an upgrade for the Chiefs quarterback in the, what we want to say, 1986, well, 1976, I guess 40 years, 1976 to 2016. Yeah, Justin Fields would have been an upgrade a few times. Oh, yeah, I'm around. I definitely got overwhelmed. Chris, thoughts on the 49ers owner situation? Stinks to be him, I guess. Probably my first thought. I mean, I guess I was talking with, again, Soren Petro reference here. I was talking with Soren about this the other day. I mean, whatever you may feel about Clark Hunt, I mean, at least if you're a Chiefs fan, your owner isn't getting into those kind of situations. And there's a lot of owners around the league who get into those situations. I mean, it's amazing how many NFL owners get arrested for the strangest things, or get accused of the strangest things, or implicated in the strangest things. I mean, Clark doesn't get implicated in those kind of things. So, I guess it's, hey, you take your wins where you can get them sometimes. I'm joking when I say that. I mean, when you're talking about what Jed York is being has been accused of, and I get, some people may vary on, the legalities and whether it should be or shouldn't be or anything of that nature. But again, it was definitely doing something that was illegal where he was doing it. Your owner hasn't been arrested, so that's a really, really good thing. So hey, Chiefs fans, celebrate that. And next time, if you're going to go, hey, Clark is too cheap or anything like that, just remember he hasn't been arrested. So yay. I know, Nikki. I did post really, really late, so that was my fault. I pulled the cord way too late for everybody. I do feel very bad about that. Nick in the impact zone. Like I said, if I can get the show under an hour, Nick will be back. I have a legally binding contract that says that, so I don't really have a legally binding contract, but I have his word, and his word is gold. So if I can get the show under an hour, we can get Nick back. Yep, Tyler. Yeah, did Jeremy Fowler retweet that Simmons is day to day? He did. And I have everything I have heard would indicate the same thing. I mean, that's definitely how the Chiefs consider it, and they believe Simmons is going to be ready for Week 1. So don't get too excited yet that you're going to be missing your guy. Fat Yankee, how elated are you that Von Miller, Chief Killer, is in Dallas and not on the schedule this year? I mean, it's good for the Chiefs, although I'm sure a couple of Chiefs fans would like to have Von Miller, but again, not what the Chiefs are interested in right now. Not. I mean, he might still have something in the tank, but just not what they were interested in going down the road right now. Big Daddy Royal, what is the biggest storyline surrounding the Chiefs right now that fans may not be paying enough attention to? Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like, I don't think that the, Peter Woods is underperforming in the preseason is much of a storyline. If anything, I mean, fans might be paying too much attention to that one. So I don't know if I'm going to list that one there. Man, I mean, if anything, the first few things I'm thinking of are all stories that I think might be a bigger deal than people are making it, or not as big of a deal as people are making them out to be. I'm trying to think of what Chiefs fans might not be paying attention to. Because I feel like most of the things that are popping in my mind are all, I mean, if Cyrus Allen is a big piece of the offense, that's, people are kind of already, hoping for that. I mean, if anything, again, I mean, I think it might be that the Cyrus Allen has been so hyped that maybe he is going to disappoint some people this year. I mean, if he goes out and has 400 to 600 yards, I think he's had a great season. But I worry that for the hype that some people might think that he's underwhelmed. Man, I mean, to me, it's probably about the areas where this team could struggle, and that one is I think that Chiefs fans are finally attuned to the depth on the defensive line. It could end up being really good, but right now it looks really, really thin. That would be a concern for me. I think people are probably paying an appropriate amount of attention to it. I'm still not sure how, to think about the tight end room. And I do worry that Travis has shown some signs of, struggling a bit in training camp. I don't think that he's out of shape or anything of that nature. I still think it fits into the category of Travis trying to do too much. And I think that if they get into the season and Travis realizes that he can lean on his teammates and that he can trust that Mahomes has got some targets out there, even when he's not on the field, that can better serve him. Maybe right now it's just it's hot. There's a lot of sweat on the ball. It's slippery, and that's been some of the drops and everything. But it just seems like he's had more drops than most camps this year, and that's just a concern because drops have been his bugaboo the last couple of seasons. So, and I'm not entirely blown away by the depth behind them. Noah Gray had a down year last year, and I'm not sure that he's an ascending player at this point. I mean, if he's plateauing, that's one thing, but he might be on the decline. I don't know. I mean, we need to get into real football to find out for sure. But I worry that tight end room might be the weak link of the offense. And I don't think that probably anybody's really discussing that too much. I mean, the other thing may be, if the Chiefs decide to move on from Nico, special teams might be a wild card because I would imagine if they don't have Nico on this team, Rashard Smith is going to be their punt returner, and that could be an adventure. I mean, he's not as sure-handed as Nico, so there might be a ball or two that lands on the turf. Might not be as reliable. I mean, he may have some big plays too that offset it that Nico just can't make. But that's a wild card. I don't know that Nico's not making this team. I think he is, but we'll obviously learn more about that in the next 4 days, really. And then again, I mean, I think the other potential deficiency of this team is going to be the depth in the secondary, particularly at corner, and just how good it is and how good it can be. And I think Chiefs fans are pretty attuned to that too. So I don't know. I mean, Big Daddy, I have a hard time thinking about what Chiefs fans aren't paying enough attention to. I mean, if anything, it's like, I do think that, that maybe there's just some things that Chiefs fans are expecting that might not come to fruition. That might be the bigger one. And that's going to be, hey, what if Cyrus Allen isn't end all be all? What if Peter Woods takes a year to settle into that position? What if Mansour Delane takes a year to settle in? Could happen. So those are things that I don't think anybody's really thinking about or expecting right now, but they could happen. I'd kind of love to know what the other conversation was, Amda Brown, but I probably don't want to know, but that's interesting. Chiefs, Warriors, Giants, Penguins. That's a lot of teams. Who do you feel have been the Chiefs' best position coaches all time since I've covered the Chiefs? Intriguing question. If I was putting together a Mount Rushmore staff of Chiefs coaches. Tell you what, let's see. Give me, I would say, trying to remember, because I miss Doug Peterson. He was the OC last year. I would give me Brad Childress as your offensive coordinator, and there's a reason for that. Because Chili is one of the three offensive coordinators I've covered. I want Matt Nagy as quarterbacks coach. I want EB as running backs coach. Tom Melvin's the only tight ends coach I've known, so got to have Tom Melvin there. It's only been a few months, but Chad O'Shea is already in that spot for me. I mean, I love Greg Lewis. David Coley is a great wide receivers coach too. Those guys were both excellent, but from what I've seen for right now, I mean, I would want Chad O'Shea to be my wide receivers coach. I mean, Andy Heck's the only offensive line coach that I've covered, so I guess you're stuck with Andy, for better or for worse. Okay, so I think we've covered the offensive side. Defensive, I mean, honestly, right now it would probably be the current coaching staff. I mean, Spags is my D coordinator for sure. No offense, Bob Sutton, but it's got to go with Spags. I mean, Joe Cullen's my D line coach. Yeah, got the rings. I mean, yeah. I mean, I got to go with Coley there, or is it Cullen there? And I mean, Brendan Daly, linebackers coach. Yeah, I mean, there've been some other good linebackers coaches there. Gary Gibbs. One of the greatest quotes of all time. Once again, great Therese Paler memory. We were watching practice one day, and Gary Gibbs, and hopefully I don't get any YouTube bleep on this one, but Gary Gibbs just yelled at one of his linebackers to get up in that A blank. I guess I'll say it that way. Get up in that ASS, and so that has continued to this day being a quote that myself and I've handed it down to Nate Taylor. So we use that repeatedly whenever we're looking for somebody to get up in that A. But I'm still going with Brendan Daly, and Dave Merritt is legendary. So he's my D. I mean, I mean, there were some good coaches on Bob Sutton's staff and some guys that I really liked, but this current defensive coaching staff is great. So I'd have to go with that. So good question. I appreciate that. That was a fun one though. It's tricky. Well, I mean, except for the two guys on the offensive side that have been there the entire time. I mean, you get some. I mean, I would be happy with that staff of Chili and EB and Nagy. I mean, that's three really smart people to have on the same coaching staff. You could get that staff together, you'd be fine. And hey, the Chiefs had them on the same staff, and they did okay. So. Think about this. I mean, this is no knock on Alex Smith or anything, but man, if you had those three guys, Chili, Nags, and EB, all with Mahomes and Reed, that would have been fun. Mahomes had come around like maybe in 2013. That would have been some fun stuff to see. Danny, do you think any player stock has fallen this training camp? Probably a few. I mean, Esapole is one that kind of jumps to mind a little bit, because Esapole we were talking about as being a competitor for that right tackle spot, and never really entered the conversation. And I can't say that it's necessarily that his play has dropped off or anything, just that other players, I guess, have stepped forward. So, that's I mean, it's like I said, maybe that's a good thing for the team in general, that some other players and Khalil Benson have stepped forward and proven themselves, because I don't think that Pele has played bad. It's just that some other guys maybe have caught up with him or passed him. I mean, a couple of guys in the secondary for sure, I think, that have underwhelmed as much as I think that the Chiefs were kind of counting on maybe them being. And Christian Fulton is one. I mean, Christian Fulton was you were considering one of your top three corners. Really, I mean, I think if you go back to at least June, I mean, back when you're in OTAs, you would have said, and that that would have been, say it's just before that they signed L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, you would have said, I mean, Christian Fulton, Noel Williams, Mansour Delane, those are your top three corners. And now I don't know if Christian Fulton's going to make this team. I mean, the math might have him make this team just because there's some guaranteed money that you're going to be letting go of, but then you can also save some cap space if you move on from him. So maybe to a lesser extent, Kader Kohou fits into that category. This was a guy that I think at one point when the Chiefs signed Kader Kohou, you were thinking this is probably your nickel corner. And now he's kind of on the bubble and maybe not making this team. Kyer Elam, you were hoping for some things that maybe that Dave Merritt could find the secret sauce to kind of resurrect his career, and hasn't really happened. So he's kind of fallen off. So I think those three guys, and I think that's obviously been part of the complication of the secondary and figuring out who you got there. And what you have is that, you got three guys that you were expecting to maybe compete for jobs that just didn't really round into it. I have a hard time, putting like an undrafted free agent into any of these categories, but I was really hoping that Cole Brevard, the big defensive tackle from Texas, would make more of a case. But I mean, maybe he ends up on the practice squad and is still a candidate to, the developmental candidate. But he didn't come. And honestly, I mean, I know some people were fans of Damon Payne and Amari McNeil. I mean, and those were all three. You shouldn't be betting on undrafted free agents to, just step up and make a compelling case. But I thought that, one or more of those guys might make a good bid for the roster and just never really developed. I mean, like I said, one or two of those guys might end up on the practice squad. Maybe all three will, but never really threatened to make the 53. But again, that's a lot to expect from probably an undrafted free agent. Anybody else? I mean, I'm not. I think that might be it for the most part. I mean, I think if you wanted to say that you were hoping that Justin Fields would be a little bit more polished at this point, and maybe take it a little bit more to the offensive coaching, I could relate to that. I mean, I think he is still shell shocked from having 5 different offenses and head coaches in 6 years. I mean, that's not easy. So he's just been jerked around repeatedly. So I think that explains a little bit of his struggles and everything like that. I'm not sure I'm going through and seeing if there's anybody else, and I'm not sure there's anybody else that's really jumping out at me. I think that as far as just their stock falling or anything, I mean, maybe you include a few of the veteran receivers. I mean, remember Jason Brownlee made the 53 last year out of training camp and is not going to make the 53 this year, may still end up on the practice squad. I mean, I like Jason Brownlee, but others have passed him by. So, and I don't know, he wasn't a pricey stock. I mean, he was a bargain stock, but somebody that, if you bet on him to make the team, I mean, he did it last year, so it wouldn't have been a bad bet. But just once again, other guys have proven themselves and moved ahead of him. So I don't really feel like that there's any big names that have disappointed. It's guys that their stock fallen are just guys that you expected to compete for positions, but just didn't really emerge at any point. I should have gone lightning round about at least 45 minutes ago, but. Oh, I love the conversation that you all have and everything. Oh man, and I am pretty sure that I just hosed Scott because I saw the notification and then I forgot to go to him on the super chat. So I am 13 minutes late, Scott. I truly apologize for that. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for the super chat. I owe you like a freebie down the road. Considering that Tobe's special teams have been bad for a while, does he have too much influence on the 53-player roster? Same with Heck. I mean, Dave Tobe probably tell you he doesn't have enough influence on the 53-player roster. And I'm not sure that he has any undue influence. I mean, and we might find out. I mean, if Nico does not make the 53-player roster, then I think you can probably safely say that Tobe's influence might be at an all-time low. That's the one guy that I think he would love to have, just because it would just make him not pull his hair out potentially on every kick and punt return, and maybe go prematurely grayer this year. But I don't know. I'm conflicted on that. I mean, they have not been explosive. And that's one of the things that, you usually always used to be able to count on Dave Tobe's special teams, that they were explosive. They have not had explosive returners. And that, I think, is a legitimate debate if you want to have. Is that on Tobe for not being able to take guys and turn them into return specialists? Or is that on the front office for not giving him guys that are threats and experienced return specialists? Because, I mean, over the last 5 years, really since the Chiefs got away from like using Tyreek on returns or anything, this is a little bit longer than that range. But, I mean, I think it's been, we were discussing this earlier this week. McCole Hardman, I think, was the last Chiefs player to have a return for a touchdown. Byron Pringle before that. And honestly, since McCole and Byron Pringle, the Chiefs, I mean, they have Brett Veach has not given Dave Toub an experienced kick returner, punt returner to work with. I mean, they turned Sky Moore into a punt returner. He had no experience doing that, and I mean, might have just absolutely torpedoed his career by taking him and turning him into a punt returner and throwing him out there to the wolves. I mean, there was, in retrospect, really no reason to do that and everything. He had so little experience as a punt returner when they were trying to, squeeze something out of him. And again, the solution to that could have just been to, if you're not going to draft a kicker or a punt returner, go out and sign one as an undrafted free agent. I mean, they drafted Tremon Smith, and Tremon Smith was essentially just a returner. He's still returning kicks in this league. I mean, he could have been doing that for the Chiefs for the last 10 years if they wanted to. He's never made that much money. I mean, if they just kept Tremon Smith, they'd probably be better special teams than they are right now. And I mean, Tope would probably have been happy with that. There's a reason to argue that they have not given Tobe, a whole lot of talent. And in some cases, he's worked with maybe, squeezing a little bit out of the turnip. I mean, he's had to do with some. I mean, you're going to say we're going to say that he has his favorites, but I mean, are some of these guys really his favorites, or has he turned them into his favorites? I mean, I'm sure Dave Tobe would love to have if he had a bunch of guys that were like Jeff Bossa that, got good speed and could run for days and all these kind of things. I mean, he'd probably take that. But, then sometimes he's got guys like Jack Cochran. I mean, Jack Cochran's a solid player. He's a solid linebacker. He's a solid special teams player. He's not super fast. He's not electric. He's not explosive. And obviously he's been prone to penalties. So, once again, I'm not sure if that's like the ideal special teams player for Dave Tobe, but he makes it work. And this is not, it's turning into a Dave Tobe defense, and I'm not trying for it to be. If anything, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here that, I'm not entirely sold that all the special teams problems are Dave Tobe. I mean, it's ultimately, hey, penalties are on him. He needs to get these guys to stop the penalties. And it certainly seems at this point that there's a commonality there that they just haven't figured out to stop the penalties, especially on their own returns. That's a big issue. But again, I look at this team this year and I'm like, Brett Veach did not give Dave Tobe anyone to replace Nico Remigio. I mean, they drafted Cyrus Allen and said, oh, well, this is a guy who's got some return talent. He hasn't returned kicks in 3 years. And he only returned 12 kicks in college as it was. And that was at Louisiana Tech? I mean, that's just not, you've been down that road before. And that's why it's like, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I do not want to see Cyrus Allen returning kicks, because I'm afraid you are going to go all Cyrus Allen, go Sky Moore on this guy. And that it's just going to take, one bobbled kick and all of a sudden you destroyed this kid's psyche. I hope that doesn't happen, and maybe it wouldn't happen. But again, all this could be solved if you just got Dave Tobe, a fast guy with some return experience, and they don't do it. They gave him Nico Remigio, and I love Nico. Nico's a great kid, great young man, I guess I should say, because I even though I'm like 30 years older than him, he's a great young man, but he's just, and then Tobe said it this week, he just doesn't have the speed. He's got everything else, he just doesn't have the speed. Helicopter, it's interesting. I mean, and this is worth a longer discussion when I'm not like in lightning round mode, but he has been pedestrian. And again, a big part of that has been the injuries. I mean, they have not had the receivers around him, and he can elevate. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But when you're having to elevate your third or fourth best receiver to be your number one, and you have no run game, I mean, again, everybody seems to have forgotten it and everything. But I mean, and bless their hearts. I mean, bless Gardner Minshew and Chris Oladokun. But I mean, there were a lot of us and a lot of people who were like, remember watching the last 3 games of the Chiefs season last year and saying, oh my God, Patrick Mahomes deserves like 2 more MVP awards for dragging this offense as far as he did. going to 3 straight Super Bowls when wasn't their best offense. And, and once again, I mean, that I don't know if we can ever really quantify how bad the running back room was last year. I mean, again, I always say this because I mean, I try to be, hey, I'm real. And this is what I'm being real right here when I say this. And I guess this is my evidence that I aim to be a good reporter and an unbiased observer. But I mean, Pacheco was a fun player to watch when he was at his best, and Kareem was incredible at his best. Those guys were nowhere near their best the last couple of years, and especially last year. I mean, that was one of the worst running back rooms I've ever seen. And it was only as good as it was because I think that, people just do not appreciate how good the offensive line has been. If Kenneth Walker is who we think he is, I mean, this offense might be a real monster. Who knows? I mean, I'm not ruling it out. This if everybody stays healthy, this offense might be the best in the league. I mean, maybe I'm punch drunk off of, the 2 hour and 20-minute mark of the show, but I mean, I'm just not betting against it. And I think it's just, there's going to be a stark comparison this year versus what even the 24 team. I mean, you go back and you look at the 24 team, and yes, they ran out of luck in the Super Bowl. The injuries caught up with them. A lot of things caught up with them in that Super Bowl game, but goodness gracious, Mahomes taking that team to 15-2 might have been more impressive than any of his MVP years. Hot take. Jackson, I know I've gone to your questions too many times tonight, but I'm giving you the break this week. I'm taking everybody's questions. Nick would be mad at me, but we're doing all the questions. How do the Chiefs believe Worthy will perform this year? I mean, they're optimistic. I mean, again, I mean, in the hierarchy of the receiver group, I mean, they think he's their second best receiver behind Rashee Rice. I think they would love for him to be in that 900 to 1,000 yards, 1,100 yard category. Again, it probably depends on how healthy everybody stays around him and, the rest of the offense and how things gel. I mean, if Rashee Rice ends up with 1,400 and Worthy wins up with 800, I don't think there'd be some problems or complaints. Just like if Rice ended up with 1,200 and Worthy ended up with 1,000, everybody's going to be happy. I mean, they think that Xavier Worthy is a legit number 2 receiver and maybe a borderline number 1. Is he? I mean, we're going to find out. I mean, this is a big year for him. It's not a make or break year. It's not a contract year. I mean, next year is a big one and a bigger one for him. But a big one in that if you're Xavier Worthy and you want a long-term deal in Kansas City and you'd like to get paid now rather than wait for free agency, I mean, have your big year now and get paid. Make the Chiefs pay you now would be the way to go. But they liked him. They've not given up on Xavier Worthy. They still think that he's a good player and that he can be a better player. Truly believe that the injury last year if anything, there's a lot of respect in that building for Xavier Worthy for playing through the season the way he did. So, I mean, there's probably a lot of guys who would not have done that. He gritted through a lot of things last year, that pain and everything with that shoulder. He had the ankle injury issue too. I mean, there was a lot going on and he played through it all. So there's a lot of respect in the organization for Xavier for that alone, but then they also think that he can be a good player. Rob Downs is the next head coach with the team now. I think there's a reasonable chance that yes. And again, I mean, it's going to depend on how the next few years unfold. I mean, if this year's 6-11, then maybe not. Maybe the next coach isn't on this team. I could certainly see a scenario where, hey, if we talked about the scenario earlier, if the Chiefs win and Andy decides to go out and on a championship form, I mean, maybe it is Steve Spagnuolo or Eric Bieniemy that takes over. Again, I'm not. Age becomes a factor for Spagnuolo too. I don't know if that's something that the Chiefs would want to go down as having, I mean, Spags is going to be at an age where he's probably not got a whole lot more years in him as a coach. And again, being a head coach takes a lot out of you. So probably not like a 10-year guy for sure in Spags. You'd probably have more of that in longevity with EB. And again, I mean, I'll tell you what, I mean, I've seen more of what I feel like is head coach in EB in this stint with the Chiefs than I did even in the first stint. I said this in some ways before, and I've said it a couple of times during, camp now and everything, but what I have seen from EB since he's come back, I feel like that, a lot of ways when he was offensive coordinator before, I felt like he was kind of playing a character. I mean, he was kind of playing the role of what he thought that NFL owners wanted in an offensive coordinator, and potential head coach. And I think he pulled his punches a little bit. I think he's decided since then, that no, he's just going to be himself. He's going to do his thing. The guy that we've been hearing, since he's gotten back to Kansas City reminds me a lot more of the running backs coach of EB. And that guy was the player or coach that players would run through a wall for. Players love offensive coordinator EB, but they just adored running backs coach EB and would do anything for him. And I think you're seeing that guy back. And again, you hear it from the players. I mean, the players who are new to EB, I haven't heard a single one of them have a bad thing to say about this. I mean, and once again, you're hearing that kind of talk. I mean, that kind of, players who just want to run through a wall for this guy. I mean, he is that kind of coach. And I think he's just getting kind of back to who he used to be. And obviously you can see that. I mean, what he did in Chicago last year, I mean, coached the running backs and had a great year. I mean, if EB just went through a bunch of nonsense with the NFL and their coaching searches, and then went through the nonsense of going to Washington and UCLA and all of that bizarreness, and has now just come through it and said, heck, I'm going to be myself and do my thing, then he is going to be the best version of himself. And I think you can see it right now already happening. So all for that. John, sorry, late to the party. That's okay, John. And don't you think for a minute I haven't forgotten that I owe you a book. Can you speak about the amount of preseason penalties the Chiefs have had so far? Thought with the changes in coaching staff that would improve. There's a couple of things about the penalties in general. I mean, one, the special teams penalties are worrisome. And again, that's because they're a repeat. And, and some of them, I mean, they've had a couple of players who've been the same thing. I don't know. I mean, Dave Tobe's forgotten more about coaching special teams than I ever will. I just feel that there's such a nuisance with the holding penalties on kick returns in particular. There's something about the way that either the Chiefs are coaching returns, they're coaching, how to, block. Teams are exploiting something in Dave Tobe's system because, once again, I mean, it's a lot of the penalties that you see are, players getting engaged, and then it's a defender pulling off during the return and pulling away, and, and they're being held because they may be squared up, but they're taking advantage of the fact that they're, the players got their hands on them and are holding their jersey, and then they're trying to pull away and disengage. And when they can't, they're getting the flag. I don't know if that's just something that teams are exploiting in what the Chiefs do. I don't know if it's something in Tobe's coaching. I don't know if it's just something that, you've got some players who are slow, and that's what they've got to do. I mean, the Chiefs lack a lot of speed in some of their special teams units. And that's, I think, something that teams have exploited. And again, that may be resulting in some of the penalties. That's one area. There were a bunch of penalties on the offensive line, and and some of these are in different categories, I think. I mean, they had a rash of penalties in week 1, and Ethan Driscoll had a bunch, and again, Ethan Driscoll played a clean game the following week. And that first game, Ethan Driscoll, was his first game back in 2 years. I think it was a lot of emotions and the timing and everything just coming back to him and shaking off the rust. Everybody seemed, and honestly, I think there was some bad officiating in that Rams game too. I mean, Hunter Norzad got flagged for a holding call that I've not spoken to anyone who thinks that was a holding call. There was a couple of those that I thought were soft holding calls. So those, I mean, I almost throw that out a little bit. Last week's penalties were better. I mean, again, they've got some offensive line penalty issues, but if you clean that up, and again, a lot of those penalties were backups. It wasn't starters. So that doesn't concern me as much. I mean, when you look at it in that grand scheme of things, I'm not sure that the penalties bother me a whole lot. There was also, Andy Reid mentioned it, that they had some issues on the offensive line because they were going with some silent counts last week against Tampa Bay to kind of practice that a little bit. And even though I don't think it was terribly loud in Tampa, it wasn't a huge crowd, but they went with silent counts to get some experience in practicing that. Looked like Khalil Benson, kind of struggled a little bit there, kind of picking it up and everything. So there have been some things that they've been working on too that contributed to that. But I mean, the special teams penalties have got to be cleaned up, and that's a problem because I mean that should have been a focus going into this season. I mean, they had way too many special teams penalties last year that really, really shot them in the foot a few times, as Andy Reid would say. They just gotta they've got to fix. And like I said, the offensive line penalties too. I mean, I almost throw out some of those penalties against the Rams because I think that was just a bad week for that officiating crew, and there were some soft penalties. If they're going to call holding like that all season, man, we're in for a long season. But again, I mean, you look at some of the penalties, and they're obviously, one of the things you could say though, you talk about the coaching staff, is that they're not coming from all those coaches with new all those position groups or squads with new coaches. I mean, Tobe's still here, and special teams are having penalties. Andy Heck's still here, and offensive line's getting penalties. I can't expect EB to just wave the magic wand to fix the offensive line penalties. Got to probably have some help. Kyle, how much rope does Brett Veach get? Roster always seems to be lesser than the opponents. I don't know. I don't know if I can completely grant the premise of that. I mean, the Chiefs have a much better roster than some other teams. I mean, they got a better roster than obviously the Raiders. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Now, okay, let's have a conversation here. Are the Chiefs have a worse roster 2 through 53 than other teams? You know what? I mean, they are probably, and I'd have to, really, really go through it with a fine tooth comb, but I would say that they're at least top 15, 2 through 53. Maybe last year they were worse. But again, it's when you're paying the one as much as the Chiefs are, and honestly, I mean, when you're playing, maybe not even your number 2 guys, but when you've got some other superstars that they're paying, I mean, again, you're going to run into a point where, hey, you're not putting as many resources into, honestly, positions 10 through 53 that other teams are. And that's probably something that really is good, would be worth taking a look at once we get into the regular season and the rosters are set and you see what the 53 are. I will definitely go through that and take a look at that and say, okay, let's see what's the cap distribution percentage, even of the cap distribution too, maybe, as far as, players 1 through 6 in salary cap and 7 through 53. I mean, if you're going to tell me that the Chiefs 7 through 53 are the worst team in the league, I know they're arguably the best team in the league at player 1. I mean, if you want to say Josh Allen's better than Patrick Mahomes, we can have that discussion. I don't like your chances of winning the argument, but that's worth a discussion. And that's about the only. I'm sorry, Matt Stafford. No, we're not having that conversation. You're a really good quarterback, but we're not having the conversation about whether or not you're better than Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you make that decision when you have Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that decision is made for you. And there's areas in which I think, hey, Brett Veach is probably better at some other teams. And, I'll go, I do see, the myth Velasco bringing it up here. You have to admit Brett Veach's post 2022 drafts haven't been above average. Man, 2026 draft looks like it's going to be fire. And there were good moments in between, between 23, 24, 25. I mean, they were not 2022. 2026 looks like it's going to be fire. And if that's the case, I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, not every team hits every draft. There's a few teams out there. I mean, I'll give you, hey, the Eagles have drafted very well. The Rams have drafted very well. So if you want to say that Les Snead and and the and Howie Roseman have outperformed Brett Veach. I mean, I'll give it to you because I mean they've done really well. And you could say the same thing about John Schneider. You want to say he's outperformed Brett Veach? Well, a couple of those guys have rings and they deserve them. So I mean, again, he's in pretty rare company. And the thing is that even when I think, and you make a valid point, man, you make a valid point there that, you know, hey, for 3 drafts that were not as good, 22 and 20, but 22 and 26 are going to be, it looks like are going to be great drafts. I mean, Brett Veach has never ever gotten credit for being the guy that, you know, put together 3 Super Bowl champions. And I know folks are going to want to give John Dorsey some of the credit, and he absolutely deserves credit for a lot of 2019. But Brett Veach deserves his credit too, and he's never really gotten it. I mean, everybody always says that, hey, Howie and Snead and Roseman, I already named, and Schneider are all better GMs than Veach, and they're the ones that get all the awards. But I mean, Veach has got 3 rings, and I mean, I guess Les has got one from the last time the Rams made their run, and everything. So I guess the guys have all got 1 ring, but only one of them's got 3. Howie's got 2. I apologize. Howie can be Howie can get all his roses. So. Oh, we'll probably have to wrap it up here pretty soon because my throat is getting a little dry. Nick will be very disappointed in me not getting this thing wrapped up in at least under 2 hours, much less on the 1 hour. Rob, you lost all faith in Fields after the 20-yard sack. That was not pretty. I mean, that's why I didn't have a 20-yard sack. He had like a 12-yard sack, and could have been much, much worse. But hey, guys all make mistakes. So I don't know what we're going to do, but it happens. Hopefully, let's see what Nussmeier does. Let's see what he does on Friday. Yes, Tom, I thought that somebody might hear me on 810 during the live stream and wonder what happened. Once again, the magic of radio and the internets. Although I've wondered sometimes about trying to do 2 shows at once and see how that would work. Maybe Bethany and I would have let me try and pull it off one night. Steven just joining. Why does it seem this coaching staff values trust over ability? Example, Connor in the slot, Nico as returner, etc. I think it varies a little bit there, Steven. I mean, it varies, I think, when it comes to risk assessment might be the best way to put it. They value Nico, I think his, trust over speed, I think is about the best way to put it. He has a lot of traits. I mean, give Nico credit. He's got a lot of traits. He's just not fast. That's exactly what Dave Tobe said this week, and I cannot argue with him. But they obviously, is it an overcorrection from, what happened before Nico kind of stabilized the return position, that they had a lot of turnovers and were putting the ball on the turf? Maybe, but they also value the football. They value the possession. And yeah, they would rather make sure that they give the ball to Patrick Mahomes at the end of every return rather than give it to the other team and put the ball on the turf. I mean, we've had this argument before too in Chiefs Kingdom about, are you better off just not returning a kick? Would you be better off just, fair catching every punt? Maybe taking, if teams are going to give you touchbacks in the end zone, take the touchbacks. You got to be careful with the new kickoff rules, but the idea is that, hey, you're going to try and take as many touchbacks as you can, take as many fair catches as you can, make as few as returns as you can, and just make sure that Patrick Mahomes gets every possession. That has been an argument in Chiefs Kingdom before in the past, and Nico's kind of that argument. I mean, Nico is that. I mean, that's what he does. I mean, Nico doesn't put the ball on the ground. He doesn't fumble. I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over. So he's kind of the evolution of that. Would you love more explosiveness? Sure. But you'd also like to have an experienced returner with speed. And again, that's not Dave Tobe. I don't feel like that's Dave Tobe's fault. That's one thing that I will excuse Tobe on. It's not his fault. He's not the one, drafting and signing players with no return experience and just saying, hey, Dave, go coach one of these guys and teach them how to return kicks. It doesn't really work that way. So I think that's where I think that they've struggled. Connor, that's a different coach, and I think a little bit different decision. But again, here's the thing with Chamari that I don't know that Chiefs fans will ever truly accept. And I think it's even different than it is with Nick Bolton, because I know what I'm about to say is a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's the same thing with Nick Bolton. There's a wide discrepancy about what Steve Spagnuolo thinks of Chamari Connor and what the rank and file Chiefs fan thinks of Chamari Connor for whatever reason. And I honestly don't know who's right. I mean, there's a better chance that Steve Spagnuolo's right than the average Chiefs fan. But for whatever reason, Steve Spagnuolo has a view of Chamari Connor that is not necessarily the polar opposite, but is widely divergent than the view of the average Chiefs fan. And I don't know why. I mean, and again, I think it's even different from Nick Bolton because, again, Nick Bolton, I think there's a lot of people around the league that love Nick Bolton. I mean, no, he's not been a Pro Bowl and all, that kind of guy because, again, numbers get in his way more than anything. Again, I talked about this earlier in the show. I mean, the Chiefs like to keep games short. They like to keep it so that, once again, Andy Reid's running 57 plays a game and the other team runs 57 plays a game. He's okay with that. Nick Bolton's not going to put up 185 tackles every year because the Chiefs don't run enough plays. I mean, they don't do that. I mean, it's just not how they operate. So he's not in a defense that's going to rack up those kind of numbers. And he doesn't play a position where it's built, to get him to pile up a bunch of numbers. Spags runs a defense that's built for everybody to make tackles, including his corners and safeties and everybody, and not just, the linebackers. So it's weird, but I can't explain it. I know I'm wandering a little bit here, but I think the Connor thing is different than the Nico thing. And the Nico thing, I think it's truly about risk aversion, and the Chiefs don't want to turn the ball over. They want to give it to Patrick. With Connor, it's just simply Spags thinks a lot more of him than anybody else does. And can't explain that. Oh, let's see. I don't know if I'm a machine. I'm just probably what's the word I'm looking for? Lack focus. Oh, once again, ACC, I saw you there and I forgot to get to you. Actually, it may have just been I answered the last question too long. But thank you very much for the super chat. That is awesome of you. Appreciate you contributing to the show. Did you watch the preseason games? What do you think of Cyrus Allen's performance in those games? I see some people questioning his stock. I got no problems with Cyrus. Again, I mean, hasn't gotten necessarily a ton of targets. Nobody's getting a ton of targets. I think it's just a little bit about the offense. And again, hasn't played a snap with Patrick Mahomes in the preseason. So that's going to vary a little bit. And if anything, I mean, remember he had I think it was that first catch that he had against the Rams. My goodness. I mean, and once again, I'm talking about, Garrett Nussmeier, throwing the ball over people's heads. That was the catch that I was with Allen. I was like, okay, he's got it. He made his great catch and everything. Now get him out of the game and put him in bubble wrap, because I don't need to see Cyrus Allen leaping up, and doing like a 35-inch vertical leap to try and catch a ball over his head in the preseason game. Get him out of there. Just playing with Mahomes. And if Mahomes isn't playing, then okay, no Cyrus Allen, no Rashee Rice, no Xavier Worthy. That's okay. That's the deal. We'll live with that. And again, I mean, be reasonable in your expectations of Cyrus Allen. I mean, he's not the team's number one receiver. And hopefully for the Chiefs fans, he's not going to be the Chiefs' number one receiver this year. That should be Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy should be their second. If Cyrus Allen outplays Tyquan Thornton and becomes their number 3 receiver, great. But, again, no one should be expecting him to be like 1,000-yard receiver this year. He's a rookie in an Andy Reid offense. It's just that he's a lot more polished than the typical rookie. And if he develops, he can develop into a 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, it's not outrageous, for the Chiefs and the organization to be saying that they think that they've got a potential 1,000-yard guy. It doesn't mean he's going to be that as a rookie. But I mean, there's a lot to like. And that, like I said, that guy is just so much more fully developed as a receiver than I feel like anybody that the Chiefs have drafted, and my 10 years of covering this team, and I'm including Tyreek in that, because again, Tyreek was all athleticism and all speed. He had no style substance as a rookie. It was all his athleticism and talents. I mean, he was, for all intents and purposes, a running back playing wide receiver as a rookie. His numbers looked like that. I mean, didn't put up 1,000-yard season, nothing like that. I mean, and honestly, I mean, he put up a bunch of numbers playing out of the backfield too. But give this kid some time. I mean, I don't think the preseason is anything to judge on for a player like that, especially when he's not playing with the starter. And I've also, I mean, again, another play in that against the Rams, you know, he made that adjustment off the broken play. And again, I think that was Nussmeier that was rolling out. If Nussmeier puts a little air under that ball into the corner of the end zone, that's a touchdown. Instead, he laid it out there flat. Defensive back was able to get his hands on it and knock it away. Otherwise, I mean, Allen did the right thing. Cyrus Allen sees the plays breaking down. My quarterback's going out of the pocket. I need to run the green grass. He ran to a corner of the end zone where there was no defender in sight. And again, you know, if the ball is up and floated into the corner of the end zone, Cyrus Allen, easy touchdown. It was just a little bit flat. And I don't blame Nussmeier. That's a learning experience. It's a learning opportunity. So, you know, take that as the learning experience, and hopefully next time you put some air under that and you get your touchdown. But I mean, the only reason that play was even possible was because Cyrus Allen made the right move, and Nussmeier saw him do it. It just didn't make a good enough throw. But yeah, in the preseason games, I've seen plenty to reinforce with Cyrus Allen that he knows what he's doing. He knows how to run routes. He knows how to make himself available to the quarterback. He knows when a play breaks down, where to go. I mean, this guy, I think, is going to make some plays. So no worries here. Nikki, would Nico be a returner if he had great speed? Doubtful he'd be a better wide receiver. Yeah, and he would be a better wide receiver if he had some more speed. You know, his size would be, you know, the next thing, you know, it would be kind of against him as a receiver. Because I'm trying to remember what Nico is listed at. Again, listed versus height is sometimes interesting. Nico's listed at 5'9". I believe, I'm not mistaken, I think he was listed at 5'8" for his pro day. It seems like everybody's like an inch off. I went into this on a couple of players a couple of weeks ago because Jacob DeJesus is, let's see, I have it all written down, but DeJesus is listed at 5'7". He was 5'6" at his pro day. I went back and looked at all the guys, you know, in the NFL, you know, of late, receivers who have, and running backs that have been in that 5'6", 5'7", 5'8" category. Darren Sproles listed at 5'6", was 5'5" at his pro day and the combine. So yeah, everybody seems like gets an extra inch when they go to the NFL. So that's apparently a great growth idea. But hey, at 5'8", I mean, honestly, Nico with speed would be challenged as a receiver because of the height. I mean, think about that. I mean, he's a good 2 to 3 inches shorter than like Xavier Worthy. I mean, if he had 4.2 speed like Tyreek, I mean, yeah, he can adjust for that. And even Tyreek was probably 5'9" at least. I think he was listed at 5'10", but let's give him 5'9". Maybe more than that, but in that ballpark. You know, but even then, I mean, you know, and with Nico, I mean, it's like he didn't have to be 4.2 speed. If he had 4.4 speed, I mean, Nico would probably be. I think Nico would be like a Pro Bowl returner with 4.4 speed. I think I want to say he was like, what was his 40 time? I want to say it was like around 4.6. Let's see. 4.56. So yeah, I mean, like I said, 4.4, and Nico is probably a Pro Bowl returner, maybe an all-pro returner. He's a smart player. He knows He knows how to run. He knows how to identify the wall. He knows how to follow blocks. He knows how to do all those things. He's just not quite fast enough to sometimes outrun the corner and to get to the wall, as Dave Tobe would say. It's just a shade too slow, just a little bit faster. And again, holding on to the football is when you get hit that hard, something a lot of guys can't do. So I think we're getting near the end here, folks. So one last word out there. So yeah, I got one more question left, unless I've skipped anything. But any last calls? Otherwise, we'll wrap things up and get out of here and get ready for the week ahead. Sniper Gang. Any way Jalen Royals can play significant snaps? There is. I mean, and I don't even think it has to be due to injuries. I mean, he's going to be, at this point, I think, their number 5 receiver. So I think he will be active most game weeks, if not all. I mean, every week. I think that even if the Chiefs keep Nico, I would imagine there's going to have 6 receivers active each week. I will say, based on what I have seen this week, it still appears to me that Nico is in charge. But let me put it this way: I've seen evidence this week from what the Chiefs are doing that they're preparing always. They're preparing for the possibility that, yes, Nico is their returner, and that's who's making the team. They're preparing that Andrew Armstrong is making the team as a receiver. It could be as a 7th receiver. It could be as the 6th receiver if Nico doesn't. I mean, they're keeping their options open. So I think both those options are absolutely open. But even if Andrew Armstrong makes the team, I mean, Jalen Royals is in front of him in the depth chart. So I think he can play significant snaps. Friday's another good night for Jalen Royals to prove that he deserves that and continue just to build on. I think he's had a good camp. He's had a couple of good preseason games. Last Saturday night was a really good performance. He's been the Chiefs' leading receiver in the preseason. Go out and back that up and do one more, solid game. And yeah, you're going to get trusted. And definitely, I mean, Mahomes trusts him more than he did last year, for sure. I mean, those two guys didn't spend a lot of time on the field last year together. This year they are. I think he's still a little bit behind. I mean, again, if Jalen Royals is on the field, I mean, chances are he's the last option, but it doesn't mean that he can't still get the ball, because Mahomes is going to go to the guys who are open. And if Jalen Royals gets open, he'll get the ball. So I'd like to see it. I think he could absolutely play some significant snaps this season. So yeah, sorry, Brian. I mean, I didn't promise Nick, so I don't know where everybody got this idea. Oh, well, my goodness, it is Nick Jacobs. It's not okay, Nick. I know you think that it's 3 hours because I mean, actually, I don't know, because that I show up late, so there's no way it could be 3 hours yet. It's only 2 hours and 46 minutes. So let's not get out of control, Nick. But this is what happens when you're not here to produce me, Nick. So if you don't, approve of the show going 3 hours or 2 hours and 47 minutes, you can come on here and produce me and coach me and make sure that I don't do this, because when Nick's here, I definitely am not allowed to wander. So all right, everybody, fun week ahead, tough week ahead. This is not one of my favorite weekends in the NFL calendar, but what do we have ahead? Friday night, Chiefs and Seahawks. Should be a good game from Arrowhead. We'll get to see some of the young guys play one more time to see what happens and what goes from there. Then Nick and Nick, since you're here, Nick, and if you want to tell everybody when we're going to record the podcast on Sunday, I'm assuming we're going to have to record it late Sunday night, because we want to make sure we get the roster in. I don't know if we really want to record the show before the rosters come out and with our predictions, because then it's going to age very, very poorly. So we will record 41 is the mic whenever Nick says, which, if we do it late, means it might not be until Monday morning that you see it on the old timeline. But Am I just trying to filibuster? Thank you. Until roster cuts. Yes, this is the live roster cut show. It's just started early and it's going to run all the way through to Sunday. So it will be like 124 hours long. Nick, you think so little of me, Nick. But once again, open invitation to come in and produce me and make sure that I stay on task. So 41 is the mic, probably recorded late on Sunday. We will have a live stream breaking down the roster and what it looks like on the Chiefs Digest channel. So that will, whenever Brett Veach lets us have the roster and know who has made the team, we will break it down on Sunday and discuss it and discuss your questions and about what the roster looks like. So we got a lot going on Sunday, both the live stream and the podcast. So you can definitely get a lot of roster content to choose from there. See no reason why we wouldn't be back next week on Tuesday for the regular Q&A. And then we'll start getting into the regular schedule. It's kind of the regular season after that. Chiefs have a kind of an erratic week next week. I think it's just practice on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then they go dark before the beginning of the season. And in week one, I mean, it's Tuesday is a Monday. And then they'll be practicing that Thursday, Friday, Saturday leading up to the Monday night game. So it's both simultaneously 19 days away from, is that right? Yeah, 19 days away from the beginning of the regular season for the Chiefs and almost 3 weeks. And yet it seems like we're already talking about in weekly schedules what week one looks like. So Nick says it'll be sometime before he has to go back to work on Wednesday. So there you go. Yeah, I know. I mean, I didn't quote Nick. I mean, he did say it, but I guess he said the H word. He typed the H word. I said the A word. I mean, this has definitely been probably the most PG-13. I didn't say the A word. I just said A word. So, and I spelled it. So I guess that's an issue. All right. I have definitely officially at this point gotten punch drunk. This is the part of the podcast that no one will listen to when it's not live. Matter of fact, prove it to me. If you listen to the recording of this and you're listening now at the end, make a comment about how you're listening at the end just to prove it, because I'm pretty sure that no one's listening right now unless you're listening live. And if you are listening live, that's why I love you. So you are all the best. My apologies to Matt Damon. We ran out of time. My apologies to Nick Jacobs. We did not run out of time, but he refused to join the show. I think that's all I have. Everybody have a great week. We will see you this weekend. We will talk to you next Tuesday, and got a lot going on. Like I said, this is a tough weekend for me. My least favorite day of the NFL calendar is Sunday because a lot of guys are losing their jobs. It's tough. There's some guys that you've gotten to know and to cover that it's going to be the last time they ever play football again, and it's the end of the road, and so it's not a fun day. So, and unfortunately, we end up talking about it and everything. So, and everybody's arguing over who's Nick's favorite, and nobody wants to be my favorite. So again, that's what the end of the show is for. Everybody, I'm just kidding. You are all the best. Take care, everybody. Have